Connor down to off the wall. Scheifele to Morris. He scored. Hofer then looks right at Tucker. Joe Hofer was completely screened. Didn't even see the puck go in until it came back out. Falk tried to poke it out. Couldn't. Scheifele right in front. Shoots and scores. What a goal. Drove the goal line. Tucks it under the bar. A double minor for Heiss sticking against the Blues. 2 power play goals for the Jets. First meeting went to the Blues 1-0. Second meeting goes to the Winnipeg Jets 3-1 tonight. Power play got a goal, but still couldn't help the team beyond that. Penalty killing suspect.
They got 2 really nice power play goals. We only got 1. That was the difference in the game. I thought 5-on-5 we had a lot of really good looks. And again, goal scoring's been an issue, but we're going to keep going to the hard areas and staying in the hard areas.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. This team just can't score, man. They just can't score.
Can't stop the puck. Can't play defense.
Alex, you mentioned this to us before the show today. The Blues are last in the NHL in scoring this season. They've played 50 games, and it's nice round numbers. They have scored 120 goals.
Right. Do the math, T-Bone.
Not good.
That's about all you need. Alex, you went a little deeper than that, though.
Oh, it gets worse from that, boys.
Can you tell our audience about the Blues' goal-scoring woes, please?
I can, Brandon. The Blues have scored 2 or fewer goals in 24 of their last 32 games.
Oh, my God.
Now, hold on to let that vomit out of your mouth, because they have scored 3 or fewer goals in 37 of their last 42 games.
Oh, my God.
Gentlemen, they have played 50 games in the National Hockey League. So of their 50 games, 13 of them, they have scored more than 3 goals. 37 of their last 42 games, 5 times in their last 42 games, they have scored more than 3 goals. This offense is bad. Last night, they had, 70 shot attempts, if I'm not mistaken? 23 of those 70 shot attempts missed the net.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm. They had 46 shot attempts combined with 23 on net, 23 that missed the net. The 71 might be a little below, a little above, but 23 of their shots missed the net last night. I think 29 of them were blocked by Winnipeg, so credit to them on blocking shots. But this goes back to a comment that Doug Armstrong had. I think it was last year at the end of the season, or maybe it was at the beginning of the year, where he said, I come to practice and I watch practice, and I've never seen a team miss the net.
It was 2 years ago.
Was that 2 years ago?
Where he said,
I've never seen a team miss the net as much as our team does and be okay with it. And I know they're not okay with it, but I'm watching that game last night, and not only do the team suffer from getting offensive zone time, but when you get grade A opportunities, you're missing the net wide. You're missing the net high. Jim Montgomery said it postgame. You heard it there. This team lacks finishers. I think they have maybe 2 guys on this roster that I would label a shot-first mentality. And even the guys with a shot-first mentality are missing the net.
Who would you say those guys are?
Snuggerud and Kyrou.
I don't think Kyrou is a shot-first mentality.
If
I'm being honest, I think he's more of a facilitator than a shooter.
I think he can be a shot-first mentality because there are most nights that he has 5+ shot attempts. Just like I think Dylan Holloway can be a shot-first mentality.
I agree. I just don't know that it's necessarily in their nature. I think they are more it is going to sound like a weird thing to describe a player as, but they're kind of team players. They like having that extra pass. That's just the way that they philosophically see the ice, right? And this isn't a bad thing inherently, but when you don't have shooters on your team, you have too many guys that are... That don't have that selfish nature in them. And I don't say that as a bad thing either. It's good sometimes to be selfish. Get the puck at the net. Vladdy, one of the things that people got mad at him about is that the puck was always on his stick. Well, yeah, but he'd also shoot. Mm-hmm. And that's something this team desperately lacks right now. They need a guy who just sits there and shoots all day long. And they don't really have that. I think Snuggerud's probably the one guy that's most in that realm, and I would even say for him, there are times where I would like to see him shoot more.
I would say recently he really took on that mantra.
I think he's got 61, 62 shot attempts in his last 7 games. He's taken on that mindset. What Jim Montgomery has relayed to the team, it went in one ear and stayed in it and didn't go out the other for Jimmy Snuggerud. Now, the rest of the guys, not so much, but they have drafted a lot of playmaking mindset players. I think the only other guy then in your system that's a shot-first mentality is Carbonneau, and we don't know what that's going to look like. So I mean, I'm watching this game last night, and look, they've had a ton of them. I actually thought they played well last night. To me, that doesn't matter because right now this team's just in shambles. But when you play well, when you outplay the opposition at 5-on-5 and you still score one goal and it wasn't even at even strength, I know what your problem is. You lack guys with the willingness to go to the front of the net because they are putting pucks on net, but nobody's going to the front of the net to get the rebound. But more than anything, man, you just lack guys that can hit the net. You lack guys that have that mindset of, I am going to beat this goaltender with one shot. And, you know, maybe it'll be a blessing that this season's a bad year and they get a top pick because there's a couple of shoot first goal scoring potential players at the top. But man, in this system right now, they do not have guys that look to score goals.
Big loss for the Blues last night.
That was big.
Really important one.
No, big loss for the Jets. They lost the second overall pick.
Blues have jumped the Winnipeg Jets.
I mean, no.
Yeah,
Damn.
Now, it's going to take a lot of work to catch up with Vancouver.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're doing a great job on the tank.
Army said it before. Hey, if you want to watch me make a team 10 points worse, I can do it. Army, I challenge you now.
I think I saw the Canucks insider put this out there. If the Blues stayed on the same point pace they'd be at, they'd like get 76 this season. That would mean the Canucks would have to go 20-13 in their final 33 games to catch the Blues.
Yeah, okay,
it ain't happening.
Yeah,
but
it's over. The number one pick still in play. Still in play. The top odds for the number one pick very much out of the realm.
Yeah.
And there's not a huge difference between like 2, 3, 4. It levels off a lot. The worst team in the NHL has a 25% chance to get the number one overall selection, just based on the lottery odds. After that, for the people that haven't kept up with this, and I don't blame you, the Blues haven't been up here very often. The second worst team has a 13% chance, and then it's 11, 9, 8, 7, 6, and so on. If you're the Blues, the important part here is really to be like top 3 to 5. If you can be in that top 3 to 5 range, you have roughly a 10 to 13% chance of getting that number one overall selection. That's where you'd ideally like to be.
And here's the way that I've looked at it. I don't think you can get worse than 5th overall in terms of the standings. Vancouver, we already know is where they're at. I think Winnipeg's going to continue to rise. Chicago's going to play better. So really you're battling with Calgary and the New York Rangers. And probably the Columbus Blue Jackets if they sell off. I don't know with them. But you're one of the 4 bottom teams, and I don't think that's going to change because everybody else sees themselves as at least buyers or somebody that could sneak in. I think you're settled into the 5 spots. I think if you really want to have a difference maker, you really want one of those first 2 picks. At least where I'm at in game number 50 of the regular season.
Could that change in 10 games?
You know what? Not so much of them moving up. It could change in terms of as I see more guys continue to play in junior soccer.
What if they win 3 in a row?
Nope. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Right? Those are the top
McKenna
2.
and Stenberg. There's a couple of other kids that we can talk towards the end of the season that I'm watching in juniors and college. But yeah, it's McKenna or Stenberg, and my preference would be Stenberg. I think he's going to be a better player.
Yeah, I trust the last name. I've seen Otto. That guy's got a good hockey
You don't trust
sense.
McKenna? Come on, man. We talk with him every Friday.
Yeah.
No relation.
I don't know. The reports on him just make me a little anxious. I've obviously not watched the guy, so I don't know.
You're not watching Penn State hockey?
The reports on the 2 different players, I trust the reports that I see on Stenberg more than what I've seen on McKenna.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. I mean, one's playing college, which is good. The other's playing in the best league over in Sweden and putting up numbers that hasn't been seen since a couple of Hall of Famers. So I'll go with that number.
It's 11:13. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially
like a quick
licensed
segment.
Rolex jeweler.
I feel like we didn't even do a lot of talking there.
I got one other thing that I want to ask you about,
okay.
Alex. That was my transition.
Oh, sorry.
What's going on with Dylan Holloway?
Well, he didn't play last night, man. I would imagine load management, probably. Things aren't going well.
So since that's not what's happening, can you explain to our audience what has taken place?
Yeah, so this, I'll play this audio for you if T-Bone's got it up. Joey was on pregame with me like he is every single game, and I was curious because nobody asked the follow-up question yesterday at the morning skate. You know, Holloway's not playing. Why is that?
You know, I think it's just a player that I don't think he rushed it. He was ready. He was cleared to go. Everything was right. They are certainly going to shut him down tonight. I actually can't really see him coming back in the next probably week or 2, and then you're looking at the Olympic break because why would you want to rush one of your big core pieces like this? It's a nasty injury. You do wish him well, but they're going to have to go forward without him again here tonight.
So he doesn't play. Joey says that re-aggravated something, and he played like 11 minutes, 12 minutes, I think, against Edmonton, and the trainers were kind of around him a lot. But
it was a high ankle sprain.
High ankle sprain, yeah. Re-aggravated it and didn't play last night. And as Joey mentioned, I don't know if I'd expect to see him again until after the Olympics because
shouldn't.
I don't know why you'd risk it.
Yeah, high ankle sprains are notorious for re-injury. We see this in every sport across NFL, NHL, basketball. Yeah. These things suck, man. They are brutal. And he came back pretty well ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I think it was 10 to 12 days, if I'm not mistaken, before they were supposed to reevaluate him.
It does make me wonder, did they rush this a little bit? It's hard not to question that. Yep. And listen, they're the professionals. I will defer to their understanding of the injury. They have a hell of a lot more insight into this than I do, as I only know he had a high ankle sprain and nothing else. But he came back early, and then the first game that he played, there was a re-injury situation or a re-aggravation situation. Given where the Blues are at, they're not a playoff team this year. I think everybody involved knows that, including the front office. I'm really surprised that they had him out there that quickly.
I am too.
And the fact that now we've seen the results in such an important season for him, I don't know, man. I understand why the player wanted to get back out there. He is somebody that works his ass off. And if he's able to get on the ice, he's going to. This is on the team sometimes to save the player from himself. And I'm not just playing the results here. It felt very quick for Dylan Holloway to come back, and now we've seen it led to a re-aggravation of the injury that he'd previously been dealing with. Yep. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys would like to get involved in the show, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to do so. You can check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. In about 15 minutes, boy, did the Blues owner have some interesting comments earlier today. Did I say Blues? The Bills owner had some interesting comments earlier today.
We do that.
Planted his foot firmly in his mouth. We'll get into that and play a fantastic call from Buffalo Radio. We'll get into all of that coming up in about 15 minutes. But next, I got to talk about the Missouri Tigers from last night. T-Bone was right. And we'll talk about how he got to that correct prediction next here on 101 ESPN. All right, let me start with the team that actually matters here locally. SLU last night, not a great game. I was able to watch a decent amount of that. Now, they did just enough to win.
Weren't they up like 16 at 1.2?
Yeah, they had a couple of big runs, and then Duquesne just kept coming back. They would have these droughts. Duquesne would come back. It was a fun game to watch. Both teams were flying up and down the court, so I enjoyed it. But it wasn't a particularly well-played game by SLU, especially considered Duquesne is not a good team this year. They got to get some stuff fixed. But if you're Josh Schertz, that's the exact kind of way that you would want to see something go awry. We win the game. It's close. It's on the road. It's a little kick in the behind, and now you get to teach off of that prior to big games against like George Washington, Dayton coming up. This is a good learning moment for SLU. They were going to have a game like this eventually. It did not come back to bite them. They did not lose it. So kudos to them for getting it done. But it was not an impressive performance by SLU, especially on the defensive side of things last night.
That's always my thought process when a team is going as well as SLU is. Man, you got to have adversity at some point.
Absolutely.
Because if you feel perfect walking into actual playoff action, things are going to bite you real quick. They're talking about that in Colorado now as the Avalanche struggled a bit, and it's like, hey, finally they got some adversity. So that's the first loss since November 28th. I'm glad that it happened, and it's not a loss, but it was a tight basketball game so that they have a little more adversity to deal with.
So that's the SLU side of things. They come out of the winning side of the ledger. Missouri
Speaking of adversity.
Missouri did not. Missouri went up against a really solid Georgia team last night. They've been scoring on everybody. They're a top 25 team, not just by the number next to their name, but also by the quality of their performance so far this season is Georgia. They come into Mizzou Arena last night, and Mizzou played pretty well for most of this game. First half played really well defensively, did a whole lot of nothing offensively, but they kept it close enough because they played quality defense. And then in the second half, both teams got the scoring going. And Missouri looked like it was going to escape with a win. About 10 seconds left, they're up. They get a big three from Jacob Cruz, a nice after the timeout play by them, set up by Dennis Gates. It's like, all right, all's well that ends well. You get the win at home. You survive in advance. You keep yourself on the right side of the bubble. This is the kind of win that you need on your resume in order to be one of the last four in versus the first four out when we get to Selection Sunday. And that's where I think Missouri's going to live all season long. Unfortunately, that's not the way the game ended. And on the other side, they give up a drive to the basket in part because they have Phillips in the game defensively. I don't know why. The guy can't move. He fouls at every opportunity. When they went on their runs yesterday, he was not on the court. And then they have to keep going back to him for whatever reason because he's this rim defender, even though he had a guard on him. He got switched onto him, and he couldn't defend the rim and fouled in the process. He was hot all night long. I'm talking about like just angry at the refs, and I understand it was not a well-officiated game. I don't think it necessarily leaned one way or the other. It was just poorly officiated for both sides. Stop bitching about the calls, dude. Just play basketball. You got 7 seconds left. Go make a stop. They couldn't do it. And then they come down, and I don't know what the plan was on that final play for Mizzou.
I mean, that didn't really look like there was much of a
T.O.
plan.
Barrett, I think it was what they wanted to do was to slowly walk it up the court because T.O. Barrett previously had been flying up and down the court, and on the last play of the game, 5 seconds left, inbound to T.O. Barrett, he like walks dribbling up the court and then gives it off to Jacob Cruz for like a 35-foot contested jumper with a man in his face, a shot that had no chance to score, and you had 5 full seconds to be able to set something better up, and they had a whole lot of nothing on that play. So, yeah, I was a little frustrated last night watching the game, as you can probably imagine.
Boy, I wish I saw this in the text thread last night.
Yeah, there's a reason he was silent.
I was putting Luka down. I was laying on the ground in his room. I had my little...
You're in the fetal position.
I was watching on my phone.
Luka, go to sleep. Stop talking. Mizzou's got the ball. Been there before.
Yeah, I was pretty frustrated, and they lost. And T-Bone was right, and that also made me a little frustrated. And this team's just not very good, man. They've got some decent players. I like Jaden Stone a lot. I enjoy watching T.O. Barrett, even though he turns the basketball over every 7 seconds. Trent Pierce, I think, is a pretty good player. He barely played last night, which was a little strange, but I think he's a pretty decent player. Jacob Cruz has become a more all-around player this season. Ant Robinson, it'd be really nice if he didn't have the Robert Thomas disease and just continue to pass every 6 seconds and play hot potato because he doesn't want to score. He had 4 points last night. That's not going to work because he's one of the highest paid players in the SEC. So anyways, I'm a little frustrated.
I can tell.
Alex, how you feel?
I get it. I only got to see the last 5 minutes of it. I'm not as tied to it.
At their worst.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't get to see them at their best. I saw them at their worst. Although they kept it close, which I do think you have to give them credit for.
No.
Wow.
No. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, aren't you
I
a bubble
interrupted
tournament
you. That's
team?
on me. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
Aren't
I'm
you?
sorry.
Well, you can
For the
act
first
that
time in
way.
a while,
I just
BK's
had my
on the,
5 minutes. Go ahead.
It's only
I'm
close
sorry.
in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Well, let me tell you, I don't need 5 minutes for Mizzou because I only saw 5 minutes of Mizzou. But they're not a highly touted team in the SEC. You're a bubble team, so credit to them for keeping it close against Georgia, even though I know, God, this is just burning him inside right now that I'm saying this. That was just watching them try and hold on and then make a clutch play. Oof. It's more of an explanation why this team is a fringe bubble team in the SEC in terms of making the postseason.
I want to start with, I'm glad to know that BK had the same thought as me on the Jacob Cruz last shot, because postgame they're like, yeah, they got the look they're wanting. And I'm like, well, they did? He was like
that was the
10
deepest,
feet behind the three-point line.
That was Steph Curry range, and it's like, you aren't Steph Curry.
If you had better depth on that screen, even with the hand in the face, like Cruz probably makes that shot still, because it would have been better set up. He's closer to the rim, and instead they run this weird play. I just look at Missouri, and I don't know what they do well. They're great at, I should say. They do a lot of things that are good, and they also have some things that they're like bad at, but not like awful at. They're just like an average basketball team. And that's why, like, when I saw them in person, because it felt like it had matched my eye when I'd watched them on my television. And then when I was there last week when they played Auburn and I saw them in person, I know Auburn's having a down year because their head coach retired in the offseason, Bruce Pearl. And I saw them still play even with them, and I looked at them and went, I don't know what they're great at outside of, like, Mark Mitchell, would you please do something for us? And that's literally it. And I don't see them as a tournament team. I don't. I'm sorry. I watch them play. They're in most of these games, but I think that's speaking of what the SEC is this year. I don't think the SEC is that great this year. I know that it's deep. It's got a lot of potential tournament teams. I've not seen a team in the SEC outside of, I think, Alabama, who I've seen in person so far, or seen at least on my television so far this year, that I look at and go, okay, that team's really good. And we'll see, because I'll see Vandy in a little bit when Mizzou plays them. You know, I'll see some of the other teams.
They got their ass handed to them last night.
I just look at this Mizzou team and go, man, I think they're being propped up because the SEC's not as good as it was a year ago.
I agree. I mean, like Ken Palm, just as an example, I think Vandy is the top-rated SEC team right now. They're at 16 in the Ken Palm rankings. So they don't have a single team ranked in the top 15. Meanwhile, last year, they had Florida at 3, Auburn at 4, Tennessee at 5, Alabama at 6, and Kentucky at 16. So they had 5 teams in the top 16 last year. They have 1 this season. And that matches the eye test. That feels about right with what we've seen. I totally agree with you, T-Bone. The irony here is I actually think Dennis Gates, outside, like, the end of the game yesterday was incredibly frustrating, and you can blame that on Dennis Gates all you want, and I'm not going to push back against it. I think Dennis Gates overall, though, in conference play, has done a pretty good job of coaching this team up. He has completely altered the way they're playing. This is
first time I've seen him adapt to what he has.
100%. Yeah, this is not what you typically would expect out of a Dennis Gates coach team. They play slow. The ball movement is better than it has been in the past. I mean, if you're just looking at the assist ratio, like the amount of buckets that they score in which there is an assist on that play, it's like the highest in the SEC this year in conference play. It was not that way in non-conference play. It is that way now. So they're slowing down. They're much better defensively than they have been in the past. Second half last night notwithstanding. They're playing differently. This is a different style of Missouri basketball. And a lot of that is a credit to Dennis Gates in the way that he is coaching, because you're right, T-Bone, he said it perfectly. He has adapted to his personnel, which is not very good, and that is also a discredit to Dennis Gates. He is the one that puts together the roster, and so he gets credit for the coaching job, but also it's on him that he has to coach this way because he did not properly put together a roster to suit the way that he wants to play. That's on you, Dennis, and hopefully next year he's able to do better. I just wonder, and I was talking to somebody earlier today, I wonder if Mizzou fans are going to buy into the Dennis Gates experience. We talked about this a few weeks ago, and I think it kind of went more in his direction because of a couple of really nice wins early on in the conference slate. But that 0-19 or 0-18 in conference play looms large. And I think there were a lot of Mizzou fans that after that season just said, this guy is not it. If you cannot get a single win in conference play, you are just not the guy for the job. And then you look at the way that they lost to Princeton in year one in the NCAA tournament, the way that they lost last year to Drake in the NCAA tournament. There are a lot of adjustments that just don't take place in game. And I think it drives a lot of Mizzou fans bonkers, the way that they play sometimes. And then just the way that he's handled injuries, and it's all cloak and dagger, and the way that he speaks to the media sometimes can be a little off-putting, a little bit robotic, and the way that you see him on the sidelines where he's just stoic. He doesn't show a ton of emotion. I think he's a pretty good coach. I think he has his flaws, but I think he's a pretty good coach. I don't know that Mizzou fans overall, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but just like the biggest portion of the pie, I don't know that Mizzou fans agree with my assessment of Dennis Gates, and I think there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, well, I was going to add, too, I think another one that we'll throw into this, because I think it's going to be something that looms large for him this year, his non-con scheduling, too, right? Like, I've seen a lot of people, and a lot of people that I have talked to when they talk to me about Missouri, they would say, I don't understand his non-con schedule because he doesn't get them prepared for the SEC, which is a deep conference.
And what were you saying about the non-con earlier today, Alex? With the last four in, first four out, was it you?
Oh,
or was
it
T-Bone, yeah.
They said last night on the broadcast, I don't know if they had talked to Joe Lenardi or not, but Joe Lenardi, of course, is the bracketology guy for ESPN, and he had them on the first four out, and a big part of it was the non-con schedule, right? They really had two games that you can look at that they could have picked up a signature win, Kansas and Illinois, and they didn't do it. And then they talked about, like, I guess they must have asked him about it in their pre-game meeting with him. He basically says, hey, yeah, there's plenty of wins for us to pick up in the SEC. Well, if you're going off of what we just talked about, and we both agree the SEC is down this year, that means there's a little bit less of those signature wins to help pick up. So I think that also adds on top of it. That's why I get the frustration with Gates. The one thing he has that is going for him is next year's class that he's bringing in. Mm-hmm. Next year will be the hot seat year for him. If he can't win with that group that he's bringing in next year, then there should be serious questions for what he is going to be able to do with this Missouri basketball program.
What if they get into the tournament this year? Does that change it?
I don't think so, because I think it's what they've been in the past.
Yeah, but if you've made it to the tournament, though, 3 out of 4 years, that's a
Are we just going by getting in, or are we going by, like, are you going to do something in the tournament?
You asked, though, if fans are going to buy into Dennis Gates' style. If you're making the tournament, I think people will buy into it.
See, I think there's almost two different ways to look at it. There's, like, buying in, which is the engagement, right? The belief in the coach. And then there is the hot seat, which is, like, if he does not win next year, he's gone. And I think there's a lot of middle ground between those two things. And if he makes it to the tournament in 3 of his first 4 seasons, now that other season was a disaster. that has to be weighed as well. But if you make it to the tournament at Mizzou in 3 of your first 4 years, especially considering where the program was prior to Dennis Gates, yeah, I think he's probably not on the hot seat.
Yeah, I don't think you're on the hot seat if you're finding your way into the tournament. I mean,
if he doesn't, though, I think maybe he is.
If you miss it and you underperform in the SEC overall, then yeah, I think you have to be. But man, if you're making the tournament, I don't know if that requires a hot seat, because I don't know if Mizzou is viewed as a team that should be making the tournament and winning the tournament every single year.
I agree with that. But, I mean, I look back at, like, his losses, as we've talked about. They're 2 upsets to Drake and Princeton. You get it. Like, if he gets in this year, maybe part of my assumption when you said that was I'm thinking he's, like, last 4 in, right? He's playing in the round of 68, not the round of 64. And if that's the case and he loses in the first round, I mean, are we counting? I know it is the tournament. A lot of people don't even view that as the NCAA tournament. So you're a fringe tournament team. And then the reason I say the hot seat for him next year should be a year where he should be able to win. I mean, based on the recruiting class, it's what, first or second, depending on which ranking you look at. That's a class that comes in, and I get it. It's true freshmen. You know, anything can happen with true freshmen, but it's different than it is in football, right? When we see a lot of these schools, like this is how Coach Cal was able to make a living at Kentucky with the one and done. He should be able to win some meaningful basketball games next year, and that's why I think you can live on the 3 or 4 you get in and you get knocked out in 2 of the 3 years that you were there in the first round potentially. Like, I don't know. I would expect more from Mizzou as a basketball program if I was a Mizzou fan.
Questions and answers in 15 minutes. You can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. Illinois back in action tonight against the under 500, 1-6 in Big Ten play, Maryland Terrapins. And T-Bone is really nervous.
Yeah, I
Go
am.
Terps.
As an 18.5-point favorite, T-Bone, real nervous.
Yeah,
Great team this
Maryland's
one.
been our kryptonite for some reason under the Brad Underwood era. It's kind of weird.
You need to have a better coach. He's got a better
And
game
we're
plan,
without
man.
Boswell for the first time. Like, call me nervous.
Are
Call
you
me
nervous that they will not cover 18.5, or are you nervous that they will lose?
I'm more nervous that they will not cover.
Oh,
I do think there's a chance they lose this basketball game, though.
That's not a good or a great team. You're a
If you were on the
mediocre
road,
team.
maybe, but at home, I think you're all right.
I was there in person. I think it was 2 years ago when they played Maryland, who was a little better than this, not by much. And they were ranked. I remember telling my dad, we're going to kill them. Like, we could probably leave at halftime, and they lost. So maybe it's just that's sitting on my mind.
Coming up in 15 minutes, questions and answers. But next, the Bills firmly planted their foot in their own mouth today. We'll let you hear the audio from their owner's press conference next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, alongside Alex, I'm BK. We got to tell you about our friends over at Underdog. It's championship weekend in the NFL, baby. Oh, yeah. And you know I'm putting in my picks right now. I think people are way overreacting to this Bo pick situation. Give me Jarrett Stidham to go higher on 191 passing yards. Yeah, I think he can get to 200 against this vaunted Patriots defense who's played a whole lot of nobody so far this season. Also, give me a Ramondre Stevenson higher on his touchdowns in this game as well. Just got to get the one, Alex. A rushing or receiving touchdown will do. Put those together. 3-1 odds over on the Underdog app.
Two things. I love the fact you called them Bo picks there. Second thing, I think that's a crazy bet. I'd go lower on Stidham. But hey, that's what you got the Underdog app for. Have fun with it. Pick your favorite stats, higher or lower. And if you get your entries right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays. Win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell to the Winnipeg Jets last night 3-1. They will be back in action on Friday when they visit the Dallas Stars. We'll have pregame coverage Friday starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Boy, I wish we could have had Donnie Fandango on the show today. I haven't seen him yet. Have you guys?
We did the podcast this morning, and Donnie almost started to get into Bill's rant towards the end of it. And we were like, Donnie, we got to wrap this podcast up, big boy.
Did he hear the...
No, I don't think so.
Bill's owner?
No, I don't think he saw it because we were in doing the podcast when all this stuff was going down.
We'll play a couple of clips from that for you now.
Should I go run down there and grab Donnie in the point? I actually think it might be great. Should I go? I'm going to go get him. I'll be right back.
Oh, God. So for those unfamiliar, Donnie works over at the Point. He also does stuff for the Arch. I think he does every show in this entire Hubbard radio row right here. Donnie probably has some impact on the air. So he's a huge Bills fan, the biggest Bills fan I've ever met. And he came in over the last couple of days just ranting and raving about how mad he is about everything. First that they lost, then that they fired their head coach and promoted their general manager to an even higher position.
I got him, guys.
So the Bills owner was at a press conference today with Brandon Beane, who was recently promoted for all of his great things that he's done for the organization.
Such great work. Such great. And you know what? One of my favorite people on the planet right now, BK.
Have you heard any of this audio yet?
I've been so busy. I just saw a little blurb about Pagula interrupting Bean to talk about the coaching staff wanting to draft Coleman.
All right, so let's start with my personal favorite moment from the interview. So one of the people in the media, one of the assembled media members, was asking Brandon Beane about the game and what led to the loss. And just go ahead and take a listen.
And led to the group falling short of that.
I mean, Jay.
A bad call.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, I would say we went to Jacksonville and we won.
So that's the owner interrupting the question and saying, well, we lost because of a bad call.
Which man, like at some point, who is going to take responsibility? You know what I'm saying?
Coach. He's called.
I guess so.
All right. The owner calls out the officiating and then makes sure the coach takes responsibility for that.
Everybody else had nothing to do with it. It was the officials who lost. Apparently, they were bad, but the coaching was even worse.
Dudes, I haven't even I haven't thought about the call hardly at all since all of this went down. That's not the reason why we lost. I'm going to say why we lost that game.
You should say we.
The owner has a different.
Also, how much do we love the fact that he blames the officiating in that game, but then also says the reason Sean McDermott was fired was because of that game? Somebody, what twisted world are we living in right now? Somebody take the mic away from Grandpa.
All right, so Donnie, This is the quote that you were talking about, though. I'm so glad you've only seen the quote and not heard it. Go ahead and take a listen. This is the Bills owner explaining what happened with Keon Coleman, who, by the way, just a reminder before we listen to this audio, is still on the roster.
Still on the team.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. He's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it, but I'm here to tell you the true story.
I just want to know how rich you have to be before you just completely get lost in your own freaking world. That is insane. That is insane.
His net worth, according to Google.
I thought it was like $4 billion or something like that.
I don't see it on here.
Because
$9.3 billion.
Oh, 9.3.
Okay, so the answer, at least 9.
Yeah, so
I was
9.
cutting him in half.
9 is where you start to lose your mind.
Guys, I'm just telling you this from everything in which that I have watched and listened to over the course of the last couple of days, which has been an absurd amount of Buffalo Bills-related material. This is when it all starts to go south, is how it feels like to me. The way that this whole thing has been handled, the way that in the press release they said admiral instead of admirable.
Apparently the owner was real mad about that, too.
I mean, this is a disaster. And then also, too, if you are the general manager and you firmly believe that this is not the guy, that Coleman is not the guy, you don't just acquiesce to the coaching staff, do you? You say, no, this is not who we need. This is not why. No.
My favorite part, Donnie, I showed T-Bone and Alex this video earlier today. I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, but there's a video that's circulating again. It's been there for a couple of years now, but they followed Brandon Beane at the NFL Combine, and he is quoted right after the Combine has come to its conclusion. He's talking to one of his scouts. He said, hey, what was the biggest surprise today? He says, probably Coleman running a 4.57. He's like, yeah, this is Brandon Beane talking. Yeah, probably good, though. Makes it more likely we can get him.
But he didn't want to. He didn't want to
won the draft at the NFL Combine.
But the coaching staff
very
wanted him.
excited that Keon Coleman is probably going to be available when the Bills pick, but he didn't want him. Not his guy.
I just don't understand this. I mean, I understand it. It just, just as a fan of this team and organization with every fiber of my soul, I hate it. And then also the worst part about it is watching BK's Chiefs fandom just beam with all of this dysfunction.
No.
I hate that on top of it.
I promise you, I'm not enjoying any of this. Like, I think it's funny, not at your expense, but it's sports funny that an owner is this incompetent.
This is unbelievable.
I really like Josh Allen. And I don't want him to have to deal with this. I was telling them earlier today, like, I do wonder, can he overcome this? Because this is organizational malpractice, and we haven't seen a whole lot of that with all-time great quarterbacks in recent memory. Like, we saw that back in the day, but football has changed so much where the organizations are more empowered than ever before, and there's just more to do within the organization than ever before. So I'm truly curious how this goes. I do want to hear one other thing, if you don't mind, Donnie, before we let you get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So put Donnie in a good headspace.
This is a caller on WGR up in Buffalo from yesterday.
I've been ODing on WGR the last 2 days.
Like, let's go ahead and take a listen.
Sean McDermott, if you were standing in front of me, thank you. Thank you, Sean McDermott. I believed in the process. I believed in you, and I believed what you preached. Faith, family, and friends. Most of all, faith. I wish you well, Sean McDermott, because wherever you go, you will be a success. And I hope you win a Super Bowl. And to you, Brandon Beane, you better show up. You better show up, because the wrong man got fired, in my opinion. You better show up. All my eyes are going to be on you. You think you got in Terry Pagula's ear? You may have, but I don't have the rest of my life. I want a Super Bowl right now.
True or false? That's a Karen.
Round of applause, please.
True.
An all-time great caller.
I would just like to say that I am a very passionate Buffalo Bills fan, but that's just not how it would turn out for me.
Did you hear
I'm just going to come into you guys' office and yell about it. That's all I'm going to do.
Did you hear how her tone shifted from, and now to you, Brandon Beane?
The thing is, man, through this
Full range of emotions.
The whole thing with this is that I can see the Bills feeling as though that they have reached where they can reach with Sean McDermott and needing to make a change. That I can understand. It's just Brandon Beane seemingly getting out of this thing completely scot-free and with more power is just something I just do not at all understand. And maybe there is more behind the scenes stuff. There always is more behind the scenes stuff that we don't know, but it just feels everything feels ugly this week. Everything.
It does.
Donnie, best case
I like Brian Dable, but I also like what you had mentioned yesterday in Brian Flores.
Yeah.
I just, the thing that worries me the most about this all is that throughout this last season, and I've said this to all three of you guys, this Bills roster has been lacking from day one. There have been massive injuries throughout the course of the year, and that team played its ass off for Sean McDermott throughout the entire season. There was not one bit of give up. And it really concerns me to be messing with that part when you got guys that you know want to go to war for you.
Yeah, they'll probably hire Joe Brady. And the nice thing is he had something to do with drafting Keon Coleman.
He'll unlock them.
So everything will be...
It'll all be fixed then. I'm going to tell you, if it's Joe Brady, I'm not going to be happy because I'm not sure what Joe Brady did as an OC to deserve a bump like this already.
Oh, drafted Keon Coleman.
It sure seems like the...
Sorry, Donnie, that was unnecessary.
I felt like a swing was about to come there.
It was. I saw the eyes. I've seen the eyes before.
It seems like the most important job qualification for the candidates is, are you buddies with Josh Allen? And I don't know if that's a good thing.
No, man.
Josh is amazing, don't get me wrong, but that should not be the number one quality you're looking for. It should be, are you the best candidate for the job? Can you get the most out of our team? And it seems like the candidates that we've seen so far are Joe Brady, who has a good relationship, all things considered, with Josh Allen, Brian Dable, who's his buddy, and Davis Webb, who's apparently one of his best friends. So, jeez.
I mean, like, in the history of sports, has that sort of thing ever worked out? Never.
No.
It never works out that way.
I'm starting to understand why the
But
Buffalo...
it might this time. It will for us.
I'm starting to understand...
It's the do factor.
I'm starting to get why the Buffalo Sabres have been such a god-awful organization for so long.
Dude, when he hired Kevin Adams and with just
And
zero
kept him.
experience?
Yeah, and then just kept hiring Lindy Ruff. Said, well, he won back in the 90s with them, so he should probably win again. It makes sense now, man.
It's minutes like this that I kind of wish that I wasn't a sports fan. You know, it's got to be easier. It's got to just be easier. What is it like to have a normal view of your sports team or of sports in general and not have a knot in your stupid stomach because the dumb head coach got fired 2 days ago? Like, what is it like? That's got to be nice.
My wife seems to be pretty happy and not have any ties to sports. So, right?
My wife feel the same way.
Right?
Yeah,
She's pretty happy when she goes to bed at night.
Anytime I'm mad about Mizzou, she's like, why do you allow 18 to 22-year-olds to impact your mood so much? I said, because I feel alive. Donnie, appreciate you, man.
Love you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Questions and answers is next. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Big news here from Chris Hummer, who works for 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. According to him, there is growing optimism that Trinidad Chambliss will end up being granted an injunction by a court in Mississippi, which would allow him to play in 2026. He sued the NCAA on January 16th. We will see where this goes, but according to the latest report from CBS Sports, it sounds as though Trinidad Chambliss might be granted another year of eligibility. That's big news for Mizzou because Ole Miss has a wide receiver. Yeah, you surprised you, right?
What?
Ole Miss has a wide receiver that entered the transfer portal, and Mizzou has been considered one of the leading contenders for his services. It sounds like it's Mizzou versus Ole Miss for him. And according to reports out there, at least, the only thing that would keep him at Ole Miss is the possibility of Trinidad Chambliss coming back next season. So we'll see if that changes anything there. All right.
I'd rather have Trinidad Chambliss and Mizzou. Can we flip like, hey, you get him, we'll give you back Austin Simmons. Can you make trades at NCAA? Everything else is legal.
Yeah, I mean, who knows at this point?
We'll trade you Austin Simmons for Trinidad Chambliss.
From the manager, Lou Brown. Guys, that crazed Bills caller, do you think she was better than the Philadelphia Phillies caller? I don't know. That Phillies caller was an all-timer.
No, I think Faley's was better.
I think this one might be better, man. This lady took on two different identities. Like, she went from, like, being a sweet old Bills fan to, like, a transitioned into, like, the Road Warrior from WWE in the 90s.
There's just something about a grown man, like, squeaking, and he was, Phillies! Like, you can't beat that.
I pictured that Bills caller yelling at somebody in the parking lot of a Target. That's what I pictured there because you parked too close to her Tesla.
From Starvin Marvin, why does Chambliss not want to go to the NFL? Probably make more money at Ole Miss.
And to be the first you're probably going to be the first overall pick next year, depending on what Arch Manning looks like.
Yeah, I think he's too small.
I think that's what's killing him this year.
I think if you put up numbers, though, man, people look at it, especially for how rare it is to find quarterbacks that can have success.
Maybe. I think if he was going to be the first overall pick next year, I think he'd be pretty clearly a top 3 pick this season. And it just doesn't seem like the NFL values him that way. I do. I think he'd be a really good NFL starter. I'd take him in the first round somewhere. But if he's not going to be that, come back to school, make $4 or $5 million from Ole Miss, have yourself another great season, and get to the NFL next year. You might as well exhaust all of your eligibility while you can make this money. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 573. Guys, knowing they're not going to be a contender, what would it take for you as a fan to feel engaged with the Cardinals this season? I think that answer is going to be different for everybody, so I can't speak for anybody else. For me, I mean, A, it's my profession. I have to be. And then B, the stuff that I'll find interesting is the process stuff. And I know, T-Bone, this is not something that plays for you, but watching J.J. Weatherholt at the major league level take his lumps and find out how does he transition against major league pitching? What can the ceiling look like for a player like him? How do they look on the pitching side of things? Do any of these guys take another step? They've got some really young pitching this season, and some of it at least has some level of upside. What does that look like? Is there anything more there with Jordan Walker? Can Mason Wynn take the next step offensively? Yesterday, or I guess 2 days ago now, Victor Scott II said, I want to have double the amount of steals that I had a year ago, which would put him on pace for 70. Is that something that's realistic for him? So those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. It will be much more of an individualized evaluation as opposed to for the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think my true answer is what you said at the beginning. It's my job. So I kind of have to be locked into them. But I will be fascinated to see the development of some of their younger players. What does Weatherholt look like as he grows? Liam Doyle, the hype for Joshua Baez has just continued to grow, so I'll be curious with that. And then at the major league level is guys like Herrera and Burleson. Can you kind of take that next step? That's what I'll be most focused on because, unfortunately, you're just at that development stage.
Yeah, you're right, the first part of mainly it's our job. I will say, like, early on, like right now we're sitting here saying this, I am kind of excited to see what Weatherholt will look like. Can Burley take a next step? Same with Herrera. Will Mason Wynn be able to kind of right the ship offensively? And I don't have as much excitement on Walker, but that's just because I don't think he's going to be able to play. But I say all that, and I'll say this. Ask me in May when they've are an awful baseball team, because when they start losing baseball games, even though, yes, the young guys will be the focus, it's going to be very hard for me personally to lock in on them.
By that time, I'll be talking about a first overall pick in the draft.
I've said this before. I think there is no worse rebuilding sport to watch than a rebuilding baseball team.
It's really, because it's every day.
Yeah.
Whereas with these other sports, it's only, like for the NFL, once a week. Once a week, you get to see it. And for the first month, you can at least, get through the process of, well, maybe there's a little bit more here. And then you realize, okay, that, yeah, there's nothing left in this team. And then you can just turn on Red Zone every week. So baseball stuff.
I struggle now trying to come up with stuff to talk about on postgame with the Blues. And I have like multiple days off in between. I've been in that seat before. That is not a fun seat to be in, doing pre and post for a Cardinals team.
Last thing here from the 636. BK, another Chiefs question for you. Do you think the Chiefs would draft Jeremiah Love if he falls there? Assuming he does fall to them, would you rather have him at number 9 overall or draft another position and sign a free agent running back instead? I love Jeremiah Love, no pun intended there. I think he's a really good player. I think he's going to be very good at the next level. I would be, because of the free agents available, disappointed if that's the direction the Chiefs go. They need a defensive end. They could use Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. He would be a good player for them. They could use a legit number 1 receiver, and I think there's a couple of guys that maybe fit that billing. So I'd be disappointed if they go with a running back at number 9 overall. I would rather them go to free agency. There are just like 5 to 7 guys that I'd be totally comfortable being the number 1 running back for the Chiefs next year. I can't say that about these other positions. The opportunity cost is just too great by drafting that guy number 9 overall. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into some NFL quick hitters. But next, what is your level of fear that Robert Thomas, if traded, would be the kind of player that goes on to have the highest level of success elsewhere? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So there was a piece earlier today over on The Athletic, continuing in our conversation about Robert Thomas as a trade chip. This comes from Jeremy Rutherford, and he paired up with Shayna Goldman, covers the NHL for The Athletic.
She's the better of the two with her and Dom.
I think she does really good work. I really like her stuff.
Better than Dom.
What would a Robert Thomas trade look like for the Blues? Comps, return, and would it all be worth it? That's the title of the piece, Alex. And people can go through on their own and read all of what they have to say on this. It's good insight. My biggest takeaway from this, Alex, is basically, man, you're giving up on a young, talented, cost-controlled, playmaking center who, if paired with a legitimate shooter, could put up 100 points in a season. That's still in his range of outcomes. Mm-hmm. He also has some really terrible body language right now. He has a pass-first mentality to the point where it almost hurts him on the ice at times. I don't think he has played like a number one center this season. And it does feel as though maybe a change of scenery would be best for everybody involved. Those are the two different viewpoints on Thomas and why he's even being brought up in these kinds of conversations right now. My question to you, Alex, on this: how much fear would you have as a Blues fan that trading Robert Thomas would come back to bite you the way that trading Ryan O'Reilly bit the Buffalo Sabres, or trading Jack Eichel bit the Buffalo Sabres, or so many of these others that you can think of, that a player goes on to have a second act somewhere else and becomes a better version of themselves in a better situation for them? Do you fear that Robert Thomas has that in him?
Do I fear it? Yes. But I think it all depends on what the return is. Because the way I always look at this is, if you trade away a guy that is not reaching the threshold that you want him to reach and you've given him ample opportunities, I don't know if that threshold was ever going to get met. Like, I look at Vince Dunn as a perfect example, and he was outspoken about this when he was traded to Seattle, saying, I don't know if I ever would have gotten here without being traded because I needed, or selected in the expansion draft, because I needed that kick in the ass. I think that's probably the case with Robert Thomas. And what also comes into this is, I don't know where his head's at. Is his head checked out? You know, and I'm only speculating here, but he's 26. The prime of his career is right now. They have not put the roster around him that can give him the best success because they're not performing. And as Robert Thomas bought into the idea of, hey, it might be a couple more years before we get there, and you're going to be 29. So do I fear it? Absolutely, because I think there's a real chance that Robert Thomas could go somewhere and be that 100-point player. He could be the Robin to somebody's already Batman and be a Stanley Cup consistent winner. But I also look at it in the Blues sense and say, I don't know if he's ever getting to that here. He's going to be out of his prime by the time the guys develop into NHL players on the wing with him. And what do I get in return? Because as much as the Buffalo Sabres have stunk, and they also saw Ryan O'Reilly go on and be a Conn Smythe winner and win a Stanley Cup, I don't think they're regretting that trade anymore. Not with Tage Thompson. As much as it sucks to see Jack Eichel go elsewhere, Alex Tuch's been a pretty good player for them. Not to the same level as Jack Eichel, but again, Jack Eichel was never going to be this in Buffalo. They're all very different scenarios than where Robert Thomas is at. So a long-winded answer to say, I'm worried about it, but if they get a guy in return who is a part of the core, who's in the same age frame as Carbonneau and Dvorsky and Snuggerud and Holloway and Neighbors, I'm not going to be as upset about it if you get the right guy.
One of the things that I would add here on Tage Thompson, just because we used him as one of the examples, he was traded by the Blues going into that 2018 season. It was not for another 4 years before he became the player that we know him to be now. That first season, he had 12 points and was a negative 22 in 65 games. The next year, he only played one game. And then the following season, 38 games, had 14 points, -6. And then finally, in 2021, became a really good player, 38 goals. Next year comes back, 47 goals, and was a plus for the Buffalo Sabres, which says something about how good he was.
Yeah, you got to be a plus.
And he's basically been 30 to 40 goal scorer every season ever since.
I'll give you another example because of this one.
But it took 4 years to get there.
Yeah, Nick Suzuki. Look over at Montreal right now. He was traded. He was a 13th overall selection by Vegas in 2017. And I would say he probably didn't become a star in the league until 2 years ago when he was 25 years old. And he was in the minor leagues for another 2 years. He played 4 seasons in the NHL with Montreal, who was a rebuilding team also at the time. They were drafting Slavkovsky. They were drafting Reinbacher. They've been spending Demidov, Cole Caulfield. It didn't take until 25 when you got the guy. But see, that's part of the reason and the argument why I'd look at it and say maybe you do need to trade Thomas. Because these guys that we're talking about, 24, 25 years old, hit that threshold. You're talking Robert Thomas is 26 right now. Next year, 27. You're in the prime that you expected him to hit that number. And maybe he's been injured all season. Maybe he has not been himself, and maybe they haven't put the best supporting cast around him.
That part I 100% buy into.
I would too. I mean, you have not put goal scorers around Robert Thomas like you've put goal scorers around Nick Suzuki, like you've put around Jack Eichel, like you've put around Tage Thompson. But I also have to look at my surrounding cast and say, Kyrou ain't it. Buchnevich ain't it. Can't get much for them. Snuggerud's probably 2-3 years away from getting to that point. Carbonneau's maybe 4. He's going to be 30 by the time these guys are in their prime ready to go. Does it make more sense to go find a guy in the prime with these guys?
You're basically making a choice with Robert Thomas of the direction of the club.
Yeah.
Because if you think you can be good next year, if you think you want to compete next year, you should not trade Robert Thomas. That guy allows you to compete. Now, even if you think he's overrated, he's a good player. He's, at minimum, a really good number 2 center for a contending team. And I'm talking like contending for a championship team. If he's your number 2 center, you're in a good spot as an organization. If he's your number 1 center, if you have the right player next to him, I think you might be able to make that work. I'm not positive on that, but I think maybe you could. The problem right now, and this is why I go back and forth on it, honestly. In some ways, I totally understand why you would trade him. And others, I don't know, because it does put you into a rebuild. Yep. If you decide to do this with Robert Thomas, you are truly in a rebuild. And in that scenario, I think it would be best for you to also trade Jordan Bennington. I think you should also trade Braden Shin. I think you should look at what do we have to do to trade Pavel Buchnevich. And yes, I'm talking about including money in that deal because it just doesn't make sense to have him around if you're going into a full rebuild. Jordan Kyrou, you should at least entertain conversations for him. Justin Falk should be gone and probably will be gone. You should probably see what you can do with Cam Fowler and the possibility that he gets moved elsewhere. Now, you're not going to move every single one of these players, but most of them probably got to go. Yeah. Because it would be a full-blown, we're talking about them being bad for 3 to 5 years before you get to the other side of this thing. And that decision all comes down to Robert Thomas. It's kind of similar to the Brendan Donovan decision by the St. Louis Cardinals. If the Cardinals decide to trade Donnie, it signifies kind of where they're at and what they're hoping to do over the next few seasons. And Thomas holds that same significance to me for the St. Louis Blues. I don't think this is something you do in season. No, I don't think it's realistic to do that.
Unless somebody's paying you an absurd price for it, you wait until the draft.
It's just so hard to make it work money-wise.
Yeah.
Because you would basically be the team that is acquiring Robert Thomas. The only reason you do that is if you're trying to contend right now. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you wait until the offseason to do it. If you're a bad team that's trying to add him. And if you're that good team that is attempting to add Robert Thomas to push for this season, how are you making the money work?
Unless you're taking it like the Montreal scenario that I've brought up, you take on Patrick Laine and it's money in, money out, and he's a wash because he walks away at the end of this year. But there's very few teams that can do that want to trade from their roster that still makes them better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the one team that's out there that can make that.
The one, and we've had this debate back and forth, and it's okay. Both of us feel differently. I would go on the lower end of 3 to 5 years if you traded Thomas, depending on what you got back in return. But yeah, if I'm moving Thomas, I'm shipping out a lot of other things. I'm shipping out as much as possible because what I'm doing is I'm transitioning my core into Jake Neighbors probably being the captain of my team.
Agreed.
I'm transitioning to with Snuggerud, Dvorsky, Stenberg, this upcoming draft pick, Carbonneau when he steps in. My defense is centered around Broberg and Jiricek and Theo Lindstein, like these guys. That's the pieces that I'm centering it around, and Joel Hofer's my goaltender. Mm-hmm. I am shifting to a group that is 22 to 23 years old, and they're ushering in the new era of the Blues so that when they hit 25, 26, they're ready to compete as a unit.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm BK. Blues off tonight. Expectation is they will have Jordan Bennington in net next time that we see them play. We'll see how that goes for them on the road.
I bet it'll be fine.
Against the Dallas Stars. Coming up next, NFL Quick Hitters here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. Alex, I'm going to go through a list with you guys. Please do not open it. It's in the rundown, but I don't want you to see this.
Too late. Just
So that's what the whole link thing is?
That's what the whole
I didn't
link
click
thing
on it.
is.
I've learned not to click on links people send me.
True.
Touche.
Yeah.
Jeff Howe of The Athletic put together his ranking of the best head coaching openings. There are 10 of them in the NFL. A third of the NFL is currently looking for a new head coach. I'm curious if you guys can predict how the coaches and executives that he talked to ranked these jobs that are
coaches,
available.
the jobs that are open still.
Yep, he talked to
There are 19?
team executives to rank the 10 jobs that are available.
Okay.
I'm leaning Baltimore 1.
Yeah, I think
Got
I'll go
Lamar.
Baltimore 1, Buffalo 2.
Flip them and you got it. Buffalo 1, Baltimore 2.
I guess
After all the news that's come out, I'd move Buffalo down like 5.
That's what I was thinking. If I would have thought, okay, when he wrote this, Pagula hadn't spoken to the media yet.
Man, as much as I don't like Lamar Jackson, though, and I like Josh Allen more, Baltimore, when healthy's got better difference makers on defense.
And it's just a well-run organization.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Bills got their issues right now. So, okay, so I get it.
The quote that he said he heard most often, take Allen, figure out the rest later. I get that. That's totally fair. Okay. But somebody else told him, best overall organization, Baltimore Ravens. So those are the top 2. What would you guess is number 3? And this is including coaching vacancies that have now been filled.
Tennessee was 3.
No.
I'm a little surprised by that.
I wonder
Cam Ward.
if
Tennessee was 6.
I wonder if
What the-
Dolphins or the Falcons are 3.
I think Dolphins is last. Am I right or wrong on that one?
Wrong.
Is Cleveland last?
Browns might be last. Falcons last.
Wrong.
Titans last.
Wrong.
He just said they're 6th.
Raiders last.
No.
Is Raiders 3rd?
No.
Jesus.
Raiders are 9.
Are the Giants even
Yeah,
on here
fair.
since they hired Harbaugh?
Yeah.
Where do you think they rank?
3rd.
Third. Giants are at number 3. At number 4, you've mentioned it because
Yeah, we mentioned everybody.
Almost
Falcons.
everybody. Falcons come in at number 4.
Titans 5.
No.
Dolphins 5.
No.
He said, how many times do I have to say this? He has said Titans 6 at least
Oh, no, he
twice.
didn't. I didn't hear
Actually,
that.
he said it once, then I repeated it, and you still didn't hear it.
Titans 5. No. Cardinals 5.
I think is Cardinals last? Yeah.
Titans
okay.
are 6.
How many
Very
times have we said? Are you being serious or messing with me?
That time I was messing with you. Earlier I wasn't.
God, I'm trying to remember who else is open at this point. Now that we've said them all.
I said them all.
Number 5, Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 6, Tennessee Titans. Bottom half of the list, Miami Dolphins. Cleveland Browns at 8. Las Vegas Raiders at 9. Arizona Cardinals, worst on the list. Ownership, not a mark in favor of them. GM is at least in question. Don't love the quarterback, and you owe him $37 million guaranteed, and the roster is not all that great. Other than that, though, you're in a great division and in a conference that feels like there are a bunch of teams on the up and up. So rough situation for Arizona.
Yeah,
Right?
that one's not surprising to me.
Where are the Titans?
The one that surprises me a little bit is the Titans being at 6 because you've got Cam Ward, but it's probably dysfunction in the organization.
Yes.
So I get it.
I'd have the Falcons above the
I was
Titans, though.
surprised that the Giants are at 3.
I was
I'm
too.
That feels a little high to me.
Because you want to talk about dysfunction, I would put the Giants up in that, and especially the awkward situation with their GM.
I guess they have a quarterback, though.
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. He can't stay on the field. Like, that's a problem.
They got a quarterback for this season.
The one I'm surprised for how low it was, and I'm not saying it would be top 3 on my list, was the Raiders. Because you get the number 1 overall pick. I get it. There is definitely organization dysfunction there.
You don't
but
have a coach,
coming in,
too, though.
Well, no, I wasn't saying the head coaching vacancy
duh.
is what we're talking about here. Are you okay?
I don't know.
But you get the number
yelled
1
a lot of
overall
Are the
pick.
coach in this
I
scenario?
yelled a lot of teams out.
You are the coach. You're getting the number 1 overall pick. You've got Ashton Genty. You've got Brock Bowers. And you're going to have plenty of cap space because you're going to have a rookie quarterback on your books. Again, I'm not saying it's a top 3 job. I am a little surprised, though, that it was 9 out of 10.
I think it's a lot about the division. I think that has a lot to do with it.
I think that's fair.
I think when you're in the division with the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Chargers,
I'm a head
it's just hard to
coach,
find the opening there.
I'm looking at it thinking, I mean, I've not been a head coach. It's like, yeah, I cannot outcoach some of the teams in my division. They're looking at it going, if I have the right situation, I can be at least in the conversation.
Totally,
right?
but just to play devil's advocate, if I have the opportunity to go to that situation, or I can go to the Titans, or I can go to the Falcons, or I can go to the Giants, like, it's just easier for me to win in these other situations.
Well, and it's not that I have the first-round pick now. It's I'm probably going to have the first-round pick or top 3 pick in the next, 2 to 3 years, and that's not an ideal spot to be in.
And even when you do get those picks, the path forward is it's just really hard to see there. Whereas if I go to Tennessee, for example, I've got Cam Ward in place already. I've seen him succeed at the NFL level. I know ownership's a bit of an issue, but whatever, I'll handle them. And I've got a division that's winnable. I don't know how much longer the Texans can do this with C.J. Stroud. I don't really buy into what the Colts were this season. The Jaguars were good, don't get me wrong, but they're not world beaters. I trust that I can make Cam Ward as good or better than Trevor Lawrence, and we'll win the division next year. Like, that would be my mindset if I was somebody that was looking at that Tennessee job. So I understand how the Raiders end up pretty low on this list. Now, having them below the Dolphins, I don't agree with that. Having them below the Browns, I don't agree with that either, because I think those are also bad situations. And at least with the Raiders, I've got a clear plan at quarterback if I like Fernando Mendoza. I guess that's a big part of this. How do you feel about Fernando Mendoza? If you don't think he's a very good prospect, then you should not take that job. But if you like him and you think he's going to have success at the next level, pretty appealing compared to some of these other bottom half of the league openings right now.
Even Atlanta, I don't know that I would take Raiders over Atlanta. Yeah, you know what? I might. I understand what you're saying about winning, but I look at Atlanta, man. That is a mess to go into. Who's my quarterback?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins.
Oof.
Okay, now who's my quarterback of the future? I guess Michael Penix Jr. ? Who's running football operations? Some guy that retired 2 years ago that's never been a football operations guy in Matt Ryan. Come on, top 5 in that job? No thanks. That one, I get it. The division's easy, but I don't want that gig in Atlanta.
Marsh's burner. Wish you guys could let me know where the Titans rank on this list.
5th.
Last thing on NFL quick hitters before we get to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues on the other
It's
side.
good for the Titans to be top 5.
We have not spent any time so far this week because of all of the news around the league talking about the games that are going to take place on Sunday. Patriots at the Broncos, Rams at the Seahawks. Those are the 2 games. Patriots currently a 5.5-point favorite on the road at Denver. And the Seahawks are a 2.5-point favorite at home against the Rams. In other words, Vegas is basically telling you, Seahawks-Rams is a pick 'em, and we'll lean the Seahawks side because they're at home. This is roughly what you get for being the home team. And we think the Patriots are a significantly better team right now without Bo Nix on the field for the Denver Broncos. Let's focus on that one. We'll spend a decent amount of time tomorrow and Friday on the Rams-Seahawks game. Do you think that's right? Did they adjust properly for Jarrett Stidham getting the starting nod over Bo Nix in this game? Or have they overreacted to the loss of Bo Nix in your mind, Alex?
I think they adjusted properly. I think the Patriots are significantly the better team without Jarrett Stidham. And I know the reason people would still believe in Denver is because they got an incredible defense. They got a very knowledgeable coach. It's all fine and dandy, but Jarrett Stidham's the quarterback. They don't have a running game. They don't have an elite wide receiver that can make difference. You've got a quarterback who might have the shakes in this situation. Now, maybe he comes out and performs well. I give the Patriots defense a lot of credit. I think they'll get to him. I think they'll pressure him. So I think this is rightly suited in terms of giving the Patriots the edge.
Yeah, I think they made the right call to adjust this. I think there still should be adjusted more. I think it's great value at New England minus 5.5. I get it. It's on the road. Jarrett Stidham's not a guy that scares me, right? He's not a guy that's going to be able to get Denver over the top, and I think we're giving too much credit to Sean Payton. If we think that Sean Payton can win with Jarrett Stidham, I don't think it's possible. I think this should be about a 6.5, 7-point line in favor of New England, and it's at 5.5. I think Vegas is kind of underselling what the fact is on Bo Nix.
I think New England gets a little overestimated for what they've done on the road this year. Struggled to win at Miami, 3-point win at Buffalo, 6-point win at New Orleans. Had a really close win on the road at Tampa and at Cincinnati, then struggled to come out with that victory against Baltimore as well. Their one big-time road win this year, and I say big-time by just point spread more so than the opponent that they were playing, was a couple of weeks ago against the New York Jets. And that Jets team was ripe for the picking. They were ready to lay down. The defense for Denver, I think, is legit. They're pretty similar to what they saw last week with Houston, and they struggled mightily. Drake May was not very good in that game for most of it, and they didn't do a whole lot through the air outside of basically one big throw to Kayshon Boutte, which credit to both sides of that thing. Great catch, great throw. Other than that, they struggled to move the football. I think this is too much. I think they've overreacted here. I would take the Broncos plus 5.5. Denver's a really hard place to play. The Patriots have had their struggles this season on the road against other teams as well. I expect the Broncos to have a great defensive game plan. I think they make it tough for the Patriots to move the football. And I think Jarrett Stidham is fine. I don't think he's great, but I think he's fine. And it's not as though this is a Broncos team that was really leaning into a superstar quarterback. Like, this wasn't Josh Allen. This wasn't Lamar Jackson. This wasn't even Drake May or Patrick Mahomes that go out there and put on their superhero cape. No, it was Bo Nix. He was good last week, don't get me wrong, but this team's led by its defense, and I think that will continue to be the case this week. I'm not sure if they win, but I think this is a 3-point game one way or the other. I like the Broncos to be able to cover that 5.5-point spread.
Yeah, I like this like 21. Either 21-10, 23-10 in favor of New England, something like that.
Could be a lot worse. They could be ranked 4th in terms of overall coaching vacancies like the Titans.
I know.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll dive into the junk drawer. Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
All right, look, we don't know exactly how much snow could be coming at us this weekend, whether that storm moves a little bit north and gets us good, whether it stays south and we're kind of spared. But here's the one thing I do know. In the cold, you want your furnace working properly, and Classic Air Care are the people that are going to make sure that that is happening. If something goes wrong, if it breaks down, don't stress. They will get to you within 24 hours. They're open 7 days a week with after-hour techs on call. And how about this review from Jeremy? Woke up to a malfunctioning furnace on Thanksgiving morning and called Classic Air Care for help. Justin was on call and at my home in under an hour to take care of us on a holiday. Great explanation of what was wrong, quick resolution, and good communication. Would definitely recommend these guys for your HVAC needs. Ask for Justin. He's even recommending one of the great techs for you there. Listen, it's just really that simple. It's inconvenient. It's stressful. It's not good when things break down. So make sure that you do a maintenance check on it. They've got the Super Tune up there. Change that air filter. But if something does go wrong, you log on to ClassicAirCare.com or you get their phone number and you call them, and they will get to you to make sure that your house is back and running, it's safe, and it's comfortable. You can rely on them. That's why I rely on them with all the travel that I do as well. It's classic air care. They've been making people comfortable since 1967.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell to the Winnipeg Jets last night 3-1. They will be back in action on Friday when they visit the Dallas Stars. Well, bringing coverage Friday starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by the voice of the Blues. He's Chris Kerber joining us, coming off of the Blues loss last night in Winnipeg. 3-1 was the final score in that one. It sounds like the team has already made it down to Dallas. Smart decision in my eyes. Kerbs, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. We did make it down to Dallas. Everybody is with us, so that is all good news.
-5 to 55 degrees, Kerbs. I'd say that's a pretty significant bump in temperature. Did you pack well enough for that?
Oh, yeah. You know what? When you look ahead at trips, you're like, okay, how do I pack? What coats do I bring? What can I get away with? But, yeah, knowing that it was still when it stays when it's kind of in 55 in Dallas and stays kind of chilly like that, then it's an easy pack job. But we got off the plane. It was it had rained a little bit, so it was wet, but it was 55, and I'm telling you, it felt like it might have been 93 after the weather we were in.
Don't get used to it, Kerbs.
Yeah, when you guys get home.
It'll feel a hell of a lot more like Winnipeg here in St. Louis this weekend than it does in Dallas. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Blues. They've scored 1 goal combined in their last 2 games. And this has been the theme of the season. They're now last in the NHL in goals scored so far this season. They've scored 120 total goals in 50 games. They're the only team that low. Kerbs, is that the biggest issue with this team right now in your estimation, is their lack of finishers?
Well, I think it would solve a whole lot of problems, like it. If you had more finishers and instead of 1 power play goal, you could have gotten the second power play goal last night. Maybe you got a point, you're in overtime or something is different there. They've scored 2 power play goals only in 2 games this year, and it's been since the 11th game of the regular season that they scored that the 2 power play goals. So I think there's a list of issues, BK, that you're looking at. And, yes, the lack of consistent goal scoring top to bottom is clearly one of those issues. And look, goal scoring can take some pressure off the defense. It can take some pressure off the goaltender, so you can see how it's all intertwined.
Kerbs, coming into the season, I think all of us thought there'd be more goal scorers, whether it was Holloway and Snuggerud or obviously Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich. When you look at the roster where they're at right now, do you think the organization just lacks those finishers, or do they have them and it's just they're having an off season?
Alex, it's a fantastic question, and it's kind of the impossible one to answer. The reason is that, do you ignore reality? And reality is what you're seeing. Okay. But the thing of it is, Colton Parayko set a career high in goals. Okay. If he doesn't get to 16, this year, that's fine, but should he have 7 or 8 or 9 at this point? Comparatively, yeah, probably. Okay, so somewhere in there. So, there's an example. I'm not surprised to expect a drop off, for example, if you're replacing, Snuggerud with Bolduc, because you're bringing in somebody with 2 less years of pro experience. So there's going to be growth there. The call up of Dalibor Dvorsky, who was not on the opening night roster, learning that center position, that's going to take time. And I can go to Tage Thompson. Go look at David Pasternak's numbers his first 2 years in the National Hockey League, right? And then it kind of explodes. Same thing a little bit with Nathan McKinnon. So I've got plenty of leeway for the younger guys to kind of grow, and it's going to take some time. It's just the offensive season you were seeing from Holloway before he got hurt. Jordan Kyrou, obviously, he just picked up his first goal in 14 games. Robert Thomas and the others, along those lines. Jake Neighbors is off his pace. Braden Shen is off his pace. The impossible part of that question, Alex, is there were so many guys that were, off their pace that you really start to wonder what it is. And then once it snowballs, man, it's just hard to get a hold of, and that's where the Blues have just struggled this year, is getting a hold of it again.
Chris Kerber is the voice of the Blues. He joins us each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, did want to ask you a little bit about something we saw last night when it comes to the goaltending. I was mostly pretty impressed with Joel Hofer and his performance, but this is now him basically taking over as the starter, and Benner has had his struggles recently. Have you noticed anything in particular that's led to his struggles in net?
No, and I mean, I don't have the breakdown and the expertise that David Alexander does. I do know this. I asked Jim Montgomery on the off day in Edmonton. Because it was the day after the game in Edmonton. They made the announcement with Steve Ott, and then the team practice, and then we flew to Winnipeg. So this was in Edmonton that I asked him about Jordan Binnington, and I said, "What do you say?" And he said, I walked to the ice with him and just said, keep your head up. And Jim Montgomery looked right at us, and he goes, and he put his hands in, and he goes, if you're the goalie, what were you going to do in that game last night? With the play of basically his teammates in front of him. And, I think there's fair validity to the lack of offense. There's fair validity to the lack of consistent play. There's fair validity in the fact that, throughout a chunk of last year was Leddy and Suter. That's 2,500 games of experience. Now you're putting with, the guy, I think it's Tucker leads the way with 135 games in your bottom 3 there. So I really don't have the answer to it, other than the team seems to play a bit different right now in front of Hofer. And and even Montgomery said, as a coach, I've never had the answer to that question. He goes, is it a game that they're playing? Because now you've seen, Jordan kind of get that second game of a back-to-back, whatever. I'm curious. His numbers against Dallas have been pretty good. I'm real curious. I think that, the talk of does Hofer's kind of start taking over as a starter for right now, which I would say the number of games he's played kind of alludes to that.
Sure.
That solidifies if he's the starter on Friday night in Dallas. Or, knowing that it's back-to-back, do they go Jordan in Dallas, and then they go Hofer against the Kings back at home? So that script has yet to be written completely. And I wish I had a better answer than that rambling mess I just gave you.
Well, on that front, Kerbs, I want to go back to the defensive side of it because, I've been asked a few times, man, what's going on with Parayko not scoring? Fowler's offense has disappeared. Even Brober, who generates chances, his points aren't there. It's just a tinfoil theory I have, Curbs. How much do you think that switch to the man-to-man defense has impacted the defensemen jumping into the offense?
Okay, so it does play a role in that. And, honestly, when we've seen the Blues over recent years kind of switch to that, that's typically been the beginning of an end, and then another coach comes in and they kind of go through some battle drills, and then they kind of fix the defensive zone. Well, that's obviously not happening with Jim Montgomery here. Guys, Alex, I just think that something didn't get started at the beginning of the year, whether it was in training camp. Look, I mean, I think if you're the Blues, too, you got to go back and you got to say, okay, how did we run training camp this year? How did that go? And I'll give you an example, okay? They didn't play basically one shift together all of camp with Holloway, Kyrou, and Shen. That was the line that was really, really good last year for the Blues, right? But then on opening night, that line was put together. They're trying to figure out, where do we put Suter? Where do we put Bugstad? Let's look at the young kids. Let's get a real good look at all these young kids. And I don't know that this team ever got traction, frankly, from the start of camp. And they've been trying to, and a couple times it looks like they're getting traction, and then it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then right now the step back is the road, having lost 7 straight on the road. They clearly have been better at home, improving to 12-9, 3 games over 500 at home. But then the road has faltered here. So they put themselves in a tough spot. Then the injuries really raked them, because it's all been top players for the most part from an injury standpoint. And look, 7 points out, they're still holding on to the rope. They're just having a hard time climbing from knot to knot.
Curbs, we appreciate the time as always, man. Blues off tonight, back in action Friday evening against the Dallas Stars before returning home for a pretty extended homestand. L.A., Dallas, Florida, and Columbus over the
rest
next
of January.
week. Yeah, basically, they will not go back out onto the road until February 2nd against Nashville for a couple of games before that Olympic break. Curbs, appreciate the time. We'll talk with you again next week, my friend.
All right, guys, I don't feel like I answered any one of those questions very well. So good luck trying to sift through that one.
Well, there's no answers.
I think they were all really good, fair questions to ask. But as you guys know, which is I think why you're asking them, I don't know that they actually have great answers at the moment.
I think that's where we're at this season, Curbs.
Stuff.
I've said it on postgame. We've talked about it on postgame. There's just no answers. It's a bad season, and you hope that it gets fixed in the offseason.
Or turned around in a real hurry here. Yeah. But, just listen, here's the thing. Play more games like you played last night. That's what you want to see. You're going to, you could play really well like you played last night against the Dallas Stars and lose because the Stars are good, but you're going to be in more games. That competitive part is going to be there. That's what you want to see, more consistency there. Because if you do, then the wins will follow.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens this week, fellas.
Just went over to tankathon.com/NHL.
Don't do that to yourself,
Simmed the lottery once. Blues got the number 1 overall pick. Curbs, talk with you again next week.
Love it. See ya.
Appreciate it. That's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario. There's no answers, man.
No, there's no answers. And I hate it because I like to provide answers like we like to provide answers and solutions on the show, and there's just none. And as much as, and I know where Curbs is coming from because you are 7 points, but to me, this is a solution that gets fixed with an entire offseason of moves / coaching staff changes / changing the way you handle training camp and preseason. And good luck, because remember, the new CBA, it's only 3 preseason games. I don't think you're going to be seeing a whole lot of rookie players playing in preseason in 3. I think it's going to be NHL rosters in 3.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting spot. Couple pieces of news to pass along. First of all, it does appear as though the Yankees have made a big signing. T-Bone, do you have the details on this Bellinger contract?
I think it's 5 years, $162.5 million, if I remember correctly from what I saw, with opt-outs after years. Yeah, 5 years, $162.5 million, with sounds like an opt-out after years 2 and 3.
Wow. So big money deal for Cody Bellinger going to the New York Yankees. Also, a little bit of news to pass along here. This is non-sports related, but the James Beard Award semifinalists have been announced for those interested in the foodie scene here in St. Louis. Outstanding Restaurant, Vecchia was nominated for that as a semifinalist. Best New Restaurant, Robin was was nominated for that. Hospitality was Louis. And then for Midwest Chef, there were a bunch of local spots that had one. Pavilion, Root Food and Wine, El Molino del Sureste, and Balkan Treat Box all had a chef nominated for Midwest Chef as the semifinalist award nominees for the James Beard Award, which is a huge thing in the food scene. So if you're a local foodie, those are some spots to potentially try out. Coming up next, time for the junk drawer here on BK and Ferrario. All right, let's dive into the junk drawer. Alex, what do you got for us
Boy,
today?
I hope this doesn't get me fired. Boys, I saw something that is going to help out all men in the world. So listen up. 8 ways to avoid killing your sperm count.
All right, what do I got to do?
BK, you're
We're
probably going to have
potentially
another
in
kid
play
soon.
for another kid soon.
All right,
So,
so-
what do I need to...
Listen up. Avoid plastics. Avoid drinking from plastic bottles, it says.
I did a pretty good job of that.
News.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. I thought you were about to hold up a water bottle.
Good news, you got the plastic water bottle. Make sure you get at least 7 hours of sleep.
Oh, I'm in trouble there.
There was
By a
about
lot.
a year where we had Luca, where that wasn't happening, but I think we're there now.
I did that when we were getting pregnant, so it's fine. You lack sleep. God, this is going to be great for you, man. Use as much soy oils as possible.
I think I'm good.
You live with
Right,
soy. You're a soy boy.
They say I should use them.
Yeah, it says you should cook with soy as much as possible, canola or sunflower oil. Avoid, it tells to avoid olive oil, which get the hell out of here on that. Butter or beef tallow.
Okay.
I'm a little surprised.
That's surprising because those are...
I thought beef tallow was like better than...
Yeah. We use a lot of avocado oil.
I use olive oil. This shouldn't surprise anybody. I use olive oil. It says to avoid it. I'm fine. I've got 3 kids. I don't need to worry about it anymore. Never watch pornography.
Okay.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
T-Bone.
T-Bone, stay away from it.
Self-explanatory.
Tight underwear. Don't wear tight underwear. I didn't know this.
See, that's a problem for me with
Because I don't like
compression
loose.
shorts.
I don't.
I wear compression shorts when I go on my
That's
runs.
not underwear.
No, they're underwear.
Oh,
Yeah.
gross.
It's-
You wear
it's like
underwear while you
sliders.
run?
Yeah, it's compression shorts.
I'm going to start screaming.
This
This man is not wearing pants.
man, I wear shorts
should
as
point it
well.
out.
I'm going to. I'm going to start pointing that
It's
out.
what you wear. It's underwear. I don't really. It's
not underwear, man.
I'm explaining this well.
Can you walk into a store wearing just the compression underwear?
No, and I wouldn't. I would wear shorts over the
that's not
compression
underwear.
shorts.
They're
I think
shorts
you
then.
technically could, couldn't you?
It's like wearing leggings. I mean, I guess you could.
He could, but somebody could call him out and say, "This man's not wearing pants."
Yeah, I mean,
That
it's the
screams a
same as
punishment next year.
A woman wearing leggings at the store. I
Well, it
guess.
just tells you to stay away from tight to constrict.
Okay.
And it also says hot showers.
Really?
Interesting.
It says hot showers
Like extremely
could kill
hot?
sperm count.
Like, how are we
It
defining
says
hot?
avoid
Like,
saunas
minor
and
warm?
hot tubs
Oh,
as
that
well.
hot. Okay.
Keep laptops off of your lap.
Oh, I'm not
Oh,
good at
interesting.
that. I'm
That's
not
that
good
one
at
for
that
me.
Uh-oh. Okay, there's 3 more. By the way, these are all avoiding ways to kill off sperm count if anybody's trying to get pregnant. Excessive alcohol. T-Bone, you're screwed, man.
No, I've cut down my drinking already on the New Year.
How much would you say you're drinking now?
Well, just on weekends, so
Okay, that's
I
pretty
don't know.
good, man.
I don't know what that would limit it to.
How about this one?
Like 6 to 8 beers on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday.
Now listen to this. Now that he said that, listen. Even 2 drinks a night can splash sperm production up to 30%.
All right, well, when you take it out by a whole week,
We
I'm like
need to
having...
get T-Bone on my NA beer policy.
It says drink only on rare occasions. Drink sparkling water with lime.
I like
if you're
that.
trying to socialize.
The Spindrifts, those are really good. They've got one. It's yuzu and mandarin orange. It's really good.
What sound effect you just make? Uzu?
Yuzu.
God bless you.
It's very heavy.
Chronic stress is another thing that kills sperm count.
Having kids.
Yeah, again, it just happens. It says to meditate, walk in nature, train hard, and sleep deeply.
I do Pilates.
Do you?
I do the walk
I
in
did
nature.
Pilates yesterday. She kicked my ass, man. Oh my god.
Well, I guess could be good for your sperm count. And then finally, micronutrient deficiency.
Go to
why you go to
Victory
Victory
Men's
Men's
Health.
Health.
Check them out. VictoryMen'sHealth.com.
You want to make sure you're taking care of yourself and your sperm count.
That's
T-Bone,
why
I just
I
told
went to
you.
get my, in all seriousness, that's why I went to go get my levels checked.
See?
To find out where I am deficient so they can then supplement me in any of those areas so I can potentially,
So, T-Bone,
be more
now
likely
you know.
to be fertile.
I think I'm at like half of that list. That feels pretty good.
I'd say about 5 or 6.
Mahomes' long body. At one point, my doctor told me to cut back on my marijuana consumption. So that's another thing to keep in consideration.
There's no way you're about half on those, T-Bone. You don't get enough sleep.
I'll sleep
You
when I'm
don't
dead.
use soy oils.
True.
The adult films we'll have a conversation off air about. You wear tight
watch
underwear, I would
films.
imagine. You have a lot of alcohol.
I feel good over here in my
And you
underwear.
don't take micronutrients. I just listed 6 of them.
Rando Namio over on the YouTube chat said, in a beer, what's the point? Taste. I like the way that beer tastes.
Protecting your sperm count.
I'm a weirdo, and I actually drink because I enjoy the flavor of the beer. So if that's the way that you go about it and you don't really care, like I'm not getting tipsy or hammered off of a beer or two in any given night. So if I'm going to drink a beer at dinner, I would rather drink an NA beer because it doesn't have any of the other side effects for me. And then I typically will have a couple of drinks on the weekend.
I'm assuming we take the text line as truth, as gospel.
Yeah, of
optimum
course.
temperature for testicles is around 94 degrees.
Interesting.
Didn't know that.
That feels kind of hot.
That feels very high if they're telling me that I need to avoid excessive heat to protect.
Yeah.
I'd say that feels low.
94 degrees?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's your normal body
The rest
temperature.
of your body's like 98.
I guess that's fair.
That feels low to me. I'm surprised by that.
Huh? T-Bone, I just helped you out to make sure that you
Thanks, man.
have success when you start trying to
Can you,
have kids.
Save that. I might need it in like 5 years.
I put it in my likes on X, so
Okay,
I'll
cool.
call
Put it in your
me about
bookmarks.
15
Yeah,
years.
put it in your bookmark.
No, I liked it. I think it's good for people to see.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, I can't see them anymore. They're all private nowadays.
Oh, man, I started
So
liking
a
other
long
things,
time
too.
ago. Careful, Carlos Martinez did that. Turns out they could eventually see it. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into more likely to happen. But next, we are already seeing a divide begin among MLB owners. Where is this headed? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to tell you about my friends over at Classic Air Care who have been making people comfortable since 1926 when it comes to their HVAC system. And this upcoming weekend, you know it's probably going to be making some odd noises because it's going to be getting a lot of work with all of this frigid air coming in. It's why I've been using them since 2016, taking care of older units that I have, but most importantly, being them or having them available to me when things go wrong. It's a part of the maintenance agreement that I'm a part of to where twice a year they come out, check the unit, clean it, fine-tune it. But when issues pop up, I call them. They have somebody out there because I get priority scheduling thanks to that maintenance agreement. And you can see their incredible customer service, the knowledge of their technicians who have 30-plus years of experience, and you could see their positive reviews over on their Google Plus page, like this one from Richard. Vince is great communicator, very knowledgeable, willing to go the extra mile. I couldn't be more pleased with Classic Air Care. So call them today, or you can schedule online. You can also check out purchase options and finance options for a new HVAC system. It's Classic Air Care and ClassicAirCare.com.
The bringer of doom, Evan Drellick.
He's like
back.
He's like Puxatawny Phil. He just comes out of his hole to see what damages are going to be done, and then goes back until the spring.
I did
Lockout
not.
coming by.
See ya.
I did not miss reading this guy's work. Now, he's really good. He's really good at his job.
Imagine being Evan, where it's like, I don't want to put this piece out.
Can I go cover like the Astros? No, we need you. We need you to write about the labor issue.
Well, he did cover
Dodgers?
the Astros, and his stuff
Oh, that's
was
true.
all of the, the scandal.
What his fault again?
Evan Drellich.
He was the
literally,
one that broke the story, I believe.
Evan Drellich really just makes people love baseball.
So you had that, and then we got into the COVID season, and he was the one that was like, oh, look, hey, it's Rob Manfred. He's walking over to the players, and no deal today. And he would explain to us why the players and the owners weren't going to be able to come to an agreement on a full season when every other sport was able to do so. And so they ended up playing that 60-game fraud of a season that the Dodgers ended up winning. We all know how that went. Okay. So he's back. And this time he's telling us about how these negotiations are likely to go between Major League Baseball and the Players Association, as we are now less than a year away from the likely lockout between the owners and the players. I'm going to read you some of what he wrote in his latest story, Alex. Major League Baseball owners are, quote, raging, end quote, in the wake of Kyle Tucker's free agency agreement with the Dodgers, and it is now, quote, a 100% certainty, end quote, that the owners will push for a salary cap, according to one person briefed on Ownership Conversations who was authorized to speak anonymously.
Hell yeah.
Quote, these guys are going for a cap no matter what it takes, end quote, the source said. Owner frustration has reached a boiling point after Tucker agreed to a 4-year, $240 million deal with the Dodgers. It continues from there, and it basically just continues going along that same path.
This doom just continues deeper into it.
This, in my opinion, is one of the important details from the story, and it's something that I brought up the other day. It would take at least 8 of the 30 Major League Baseball owners to effectively hold up any labor agreement, but when it comes to a cap, internal politics will not be the owner's biggest hurdle. Players also have historically been willing to miss many games in order to avoid a cap system. And again, it continues from there.
Okay, so explain that one a little bit more. It only takes 8 teams to keep from a lockout happening?
So if 8 owners agree, we're only signing a document if it includes a cap.
Gotcha.
They can basically prevent Major League Baseball from coming to any deal.
So majority doesn't rule in terms of making this decision. 8 teams say, nope, not doing this until there's a cap.
Once
then
you
there's
get
no
that
baseball.
Eighth team, it's kind of like in, I promise you this is not a political point, but just like to get the point across. If you've got some kind of legislation you want to get across the table, you need 60 in the Senate, basically, to be able to do so. And if you don't get to that 60 number, you ain't getting it passed.
Yeah.
There are some things that can go through with just majority, but again, that's getting back further into the political debate. We don't need to go there.
Let's get back to baseball.
The filibuster, all of these different things. So, yeah. But for Major League Baseball...
What makes a bill thing from Schoolhouse Rock.
Let's keep Evan Drellich as the bringer of doom, not you.
Major League Baseball, you need 7 or fewer owners to disagree with it.
So basically, we're going to be in a lockout.
Yeah, because I can see the NL Central and the AL Central and basically say, yeah, I think they're probably going to be lockstep. We need a cap.
Add in the Rockies, add in the Athletics, and
And the race.
And the race. Yeah.
I don't know what the path is for this next labor agreement. I really don't. It's hard to see, because if the players are steadfast, we will not agree to a cap. We will not agree to a cap. We will not agree to a cap. I don't care. No, it's not happening. If that is the case on their side of things, whether I agree with that or not doesn't much matter. We're talking about what's actually going to happen, not what we think should happen here. And there are, let's call it 10 owners that all agree. The only way we are signing that labor negotiation agreement is if there is a cap and a floor in place, and you can't get one without the other. You have to have both in place. What happens? What's the path towards some kind of a deal other than players getting squeezed, I think, because owners, I would imagine, are more likely to say, screw it, that's fine. Don't play a season. Yeah, cool. I've got billions of dollars in the bank. The only reason I have this team is because I have other businesses. I've got income. You guys don't.
And guess what? After that first year, when they don't come back and they say, let's go back to the table, and the owners are going to say, we're still good. Get a cap or we ain't playing. At some point, and I know this is maybe aggressive on the front, but at some point, I think the players have to cave. That money runs out before the owner's money runs out.
That's generally speaking the way that this thing goes. And baseball is the one sport where it hasn't. For its entire history, players, and we've seen this 30 years ago, we went through the same kind of a situation, very similar season. And players said, we're not doing it. We will not agree to a cap. And owners eventually caved in. They said, well, all right, come on, like let's play baseball. They're clearly not going to agree to this. I don't know if that has changed now because of the system that's in place. Like the divide is way greater now than it was 30 years ago. And it seems as though there are more owners that are steadfast that this system has to change. We can't keep going this way. We can't keep operating in this way. Whew. There's a huge divide, and it's multiple divides taking place. It's the owners against the players. That's one. I also think within players, I do wonder, are you going to see a divide among the rank and file? The guys that are still on rookie deals, or the veteran journeyman who makes $2 million a year, like Harrison Bader, for example, who's still waiting. And I only bring his name up because he's a guy that's out there every offseason, seems to always get 1 year, $10 million deals. Would he be better suited in a cap system? Maybe he thinks yes.
I think he'd be signed now in a cap system.
Probably.
Maybe.
Would Max Scherzer have been better suited with a cap system? No, probably not. Would Shohei Ohtani be better suited with a cap system? No, probably not. And the problem for the Players Association, if you are somebody that wants a cap, for example, the guys that are making all of that money, they're generally speaking the ones that are on the executive board. They're the ones that are in the rooms that are doing most of the negotiating, and they represent you among that board to make many of the key decisions. So a lot of the time you'll see the rank and file not really have their ideas voiced in these negotiations. At least that's my understanding of the way that it went in COVID and has been the case in many of these negotiations in the past. So you've got that infighting among the players, and you also have infighting among the owners, where I would imagine Dodgers ownership is thrilled with the way that this game's going. And we've got this huge advantage. We are massive in the Japanese market right now. Our TV deal's fantastic. We also have an advantage because of our TV deal compared to all of the rest of you schmucks out there. And we're winning a bunch of World Series. This is great. I love this system. I would imagine the Mets are okay with this right now. The Blue Jays are probably fine with this right now. Maybe the Phillies, the Mets, the Cubs, probably all mostly fine with the way that this system is going. I don't think the Rockies feel that way. I would guess the Guardians would probably like a different system. Probably the Royals, maybe the Rays, Cardinals. Many of these owners feel differently. So there's a divide among players, a divide among owners, and then there is divide between the players and the owners. And all of this has to come to some sort of an agreement, and it's hard to see what that looks like. When you got NFL or NBA, they're fighting over like percentage points. It's like 0.5% of the revenue. Who gets this? Yeah, that can be resolved pretty easily over time. Or it's, hey, you know, how many rest days are there going to be over the course of the season? Or what kind of hotels are we staying at? What's the travel look like? That stuff, not as hard to negotiate. This is the entire structure of the sport coming under question. And what does it look like for the next decade? Buckle up.
We're going to be hearing a lot of Ellen Drelich over the next few months.
It's going to. I mean, what he says is what part is the scariest about it is it's hard to see where the path forward is, right? Like, especially because it is infighting within the groups. You know, the last go round, there wasn't. I don't think there's really any infighting. Maybe a little bit on the owner side, but not significant enough to really hold things up. So it was players versus owners. We'll see who ends up coming out on top. Who's going to be the one that they play a giant game of chicken? Oh, we're willing to miss games. Oh, no, we're willing to miss games. And we'll see who caves. Tough part is like it's infighting with the owners, like he said. The players one's the one that I'm fascinated to see because let's not forget, it goes under the radar. and I know people in St. Louis aren't going to like what I bring up. Jack Flaherty tried to run a coup in the Players Association like a year ago.
Yeah.
And it almost worked. And that wasn't by accident, right? That wasn't just like Jack Flaherty stood up by himself and said, I've got this idea, and we're going to get this one guy in to take over the PA from Tony Clark. No. He had a bunch of support in doing such a move. So the players are clearly divided, and there are some guys that are interested in going towards the cap system. Now, I don't know what that percentage is, how significant it is, and how much it will play in to these labor discussions. But if you add a third element into this, which is owners versus owners, owners versus players, and then we add in players versus players potentially, it feels like if not a full season, at least a decent chunk of a season that could be lost in this upcoming labor negotiation.
It feels like this is going to be a full season until they actually go to the table with listening ears, which sounds very childish to say, but
I am skeptical that owners will not cave again. I am skeptical that they won't eventually cave. And I know, like, I say that, and like all momentum is definitely pointing towards, well, why would they do that when we're talking about an uprising from the smaller markets? I don't know, man. They realize how good their business, even though, yes, there is parity in the spending and all of that, they see where things are trending right now for the game, and it would be bad for them to hit into a lockout.
Just to give you an example of what I was talking about with the executive board, here's the subcommittee for the Major League Baseball Players Association as represented on their current website. Marcus Semien.
He got paid.
Chris Bassett.
He did get paid.
Paul Skeens.
He'll get paid.
Jake Cronenworth.
Well.
And
should
then
have gotten paid.
Two other guys that are alternate player reps are Pete Fairbanks, Brent Suter. So.
Well,
they got to have bullpen arms.
Well, no, I'm more surprised that Suter of all people's on there. Brent Suter would definitely be a guy I would think would be wanting a cap.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll get it figured out. What could go wrong?
There's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Nope. At least we've got baseball in 2026 to watch.
It's going to be a fun one.
You give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely in a game we call more likely to happen here on 101 ESPN.
BK, we've got football action coming up this weekend, and you picked earlier in our underdog plays. We looked at the Broncos and the Patriots game, so I'm going to go to the Rams and Seahawks. First thing I always do when I open up that underdog app is I look for some profit boosts, and I always see what they're willing to offer. I go to the game, and here's my play for this upcoming weekend. I like Cooper Kupp higher on 29.5 receiving yards. I think he caused a strike back against the Rams, a little revenge. I like Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker, higher on field goals made. I like higher on rushing or receiving touchdowns for Kenneth Walker, lower on pass yards for Stafford. All of that 7-1 odds.
Love that over on the underdog app. It's super easy to use. Choose whether your favorite players are going higher or lower on their stats. You could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Maybe you want to play the Maryland versus Illinois game for tonight. I know, T-Bone, you might be interested in this one. They've got Wagler, his over-unders available for you. They've got Ivasic and Stojakovic. If you want to get in on that action, you can do so right now now over on the Underdog app. What are you waiting for? Download the app today. Sign up using our promo code BKO. That's promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. It's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays. Win money. Must be 18 or older, present in Missouri. Terms do apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Some news to pass along. According to multiple reports, the LA Galaxy are in talks to acquire St. Louis City SC forward João Klaus, one of the original members of St. Louis City SC, potentially going to be traded to the LA Galaxy. Wanted to pass that along. I think that would mean the last remaining member of that original team would be Berkey, right?
They're disbanding that team like the Golden Knights do.
Yeah, well, I think it would be Berkey. There might be one more on the team that I can't think of, but yeah, it's either one or two.
At least the big names that were the main contributors.
Berkey, Parker were your big three. Oh no, Leuven's still there.
Leuven, yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's who I was thinking. Leuven is another one, and there might be one more. I'm trying to think. The guy that broke his leg early in the year might have been the original team as well, but yeah, they've disbanded it pretty quickly.
It's crazy, man.
But that's soccer for you.
Happens fast. It was a fun team to watch that first year. Has been less fun recently. So hopefully they're able to assemble a better team this time around. All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely. Let's start out with this. Alex, more likely to happen. Mizzou reaches the college football playoff next year, or Illinois gets to the Final Four in college basketball this season.
Illinois gets to the Final Four this season.
I think that's probably right.
Unfortunately, Mizzou has a lot more holes that they have to tighten up before I could buy into them making the playoffs next year. Yeah. Chance, though, because I like Austin Simmons, but I'll go Illinois.
Yeah, I will go Illinois as well. I know they just lost Boswell. He'll be back, though, by the time they get to the NCAA tournament. They're a very complete team. They feel like they're bigger than most teams that they go up against, mostly because they went and recruited men out of Europe. Yeah, I think it's them. I know BK would like to tell the people. I mean, we've skipped the segment the last couple of days, but BK would like to tell the people to calm the bleep down on the Mizzou transfer portal.
Why do we skip that the last couple of days?
I don't know.
We also skipped why you think that Braden Shen should be here. This is the third straight day that we skipped that segment.
That table with one leg to stand on, it's not a good one, but it's something that I can try and sell you on.
I would go Illinois as well. I just think they're a legit top 10 team in the country. Right now, they have the #1 ranked offense and offensive efficiency in all of college basketball. And they're top 20 defensively. That's the kind of team that has a real chance to win a natty. Alex?
Guys, more likely to happen. Stick with me here. The Blues get the equivalent of 2 first-round picks in return for Falk and Shen, or they trade both Kyrou and Thomas this offseason.
The first one. I think they are more likely to get the equivalent of 2 first-round picks. Now, whether we think they're actually worth that or not doesn't much matter. What does the market bear? I think they're more likely to get that for Shin and Falk.
Yeah, I agree. I would say it's more likely they would get the equivalent of that in first-round picks for those guys, even though I think there's a chance they could move both Thomas and Kyrou. That is a major swing in an offseason for the St. Louis Blues that I'm not even sure they would. I'm still not convinced they would do that. But I'm convinced that they could probably get at least 2 equivalent first-round picks for those guys.
I think all of these scenarios happen this year, but I would say it's more likely that the equivalent of 2 first-round picks, and I think they're both going to be prospects. I don't think they want anything to do with draft picks. I think they just want players.
By the way, on an unrelated note, would you bring back Nick Leddy on a veteran minimum deal?
At this point, no.
Yeah, at this point, no. Okay. I mean, when you trade Falk,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean,
I'm not telling you he's good, but he can be a placeholder so that way you don't have to rush anybody.
I'd be more likely to call Ryan Suter and say you got 30 more games in you than I would give Nick Leddy the chance.
To bleep off.
Oh yeah, he absolutely would. But I don't think Nick Leddy makes that much of a difference. Honestly, if they move Falk, you're in a bad spot no matter what. Put Logan Mailloux in the top 4 and let him play, and then bring up Hunter Skinner, who's one of the few defensemen who's still a plus on this team.
Guys more likely to get back to the respective championship weekend next year, the Denver Broncos or the Seattle Seahawks?
Oh, that's a good one.
I think I'll say Seahawks. Because you're going to have an elite defense. You still have Jackson Smith and Jigba. Even with Darnold, I think that division is still in your grasp because the 49ers are, I don't know how much I buy in the 49ers, and the Rams, they might not have Stafford next year. So I'll say Seahawks.
I'll say Seahawks as well. The path is easier. I don't have a lot of confidence in that. That's a really good question, T-Bone. Yeah, because the NFC South doesn't have anybody I'm concerned about. The Eagles are talented, but we know what happens there. The 49ers have so many injury issues, and they're getting older. Like that, this might have been, despite their team being completely decimated by injury by the end of the season, they're losing their defensive coordinator again, and they're old on the offensive side of the ball outside of Brock Purdy, and their running back is coming off of a season in which he had like 480 opportunities. That is ridiculous. When you see that kind of number, guys do not come back from that very often. So they might be going in the opposite direction. The Rams, who knows what happens with Stafford next year. Yeah, I'll go Seahawks.
Yeah, I would as well, because though right now it feels like the NFC is the toughest playoff field that we saw this year, which I think is true, you then have to remember, like, okay, what if the Chiefs do rebound, right? What if they do get things turned around? Then I got to deal with Mahomes again.
Not just the Chiefs, though. You got the Ravens, the Bengals, Bills, depending on what they look like.
It gets a lot tougher if those teams figure it out. That's why I'm with you guys. I would go Seattle, even though I really like that Broncos team, and we'll see about the quarterback system. I think there's a chance Bo Nix ends up being better than Darnold, but I just think the path's easier. I agree with you guys.
They don't have difference makers, and I don't know if they're going to be drafting any difference makers.
Of these 4, who would you say is more likely to get back there next year? Is it clearly
the most likely out of the 4?
Is it clearly New England?
Yeah,
I think so too.
I think the Rams.
If Stafford's back, they just feel like a team that this is the last ride. And what I mean by that is the last ride of being this good. Like, Stafford could come back next year. I don't expect he's going to be an MVP again.
Maybe not. I just trust McVay, dude. I trust McVay.
I trust
McVay,
Father Time.
Stafford, Puka Nacua. I'll trust that core. And if he is back next season, I think they could very well be right back here once again. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. 4 more likely to happen. You give us 2 scenarios, we'll tell you which one is more likely. From the 314, more likely Bergeron resigns with the Blues or Jordan Kyrou is traded at the deadline?
Kyrou's traded at the deadline. I think they're going to bring Bergeron back no matter what. I mean, he's one of the few guys that have performed well, and I think he's going to be cheaper than what he's making right now.
So you think it's more likely that he's back?
Oh, yeah. I guess that makes sense. I mean, of the scenarios,
I got a little confused by the explanation. Yeah, I'd go Bergeron.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that he's re-signed. He's a RFA. The likelihood is he's probably going to be back here next year.
Yeah, and he's not going to cost you more than 2.
If they do a big fire sale, which we kind of talked about earlier about Thomas being the potential pivot point on if it's a rebuild or not, you're going to need bodies, right? Yeah. So, like, he kind of has to be back.
Yeah, if you try and move Kyrou, Thomas, and then let's say they do move on from Matthew Joseph, Oscar Sundquist, Braden Shen, and then if they go down the path of a Pius Suter or a Nick Bukestad, I mean, I just listed off 6 guys from that roster.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. More likely St. Louis gets an NBA or an NFL team. Heard the morning after talking about this a little bit earlier today with the NFL side of things.
I would say NBA.
Did you listen to the NFL interview?
What do you mean?
With Eric Schmidt, I'm assuming you're talking about?
So they didn't talk to him today, but Tim had a conversation with him off air.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the Channel 4 interview that he did.
Yeah, that's what he was referencing.
I watched that, and part of me, I was like, he kind of just basically told, like, I don't think Eric Schmidt was planning for that question, and he was like, do you want an NFL team back in St. Louis? Like,
so
felt like it was
Tim
swayed
talked
that
to
way
him today.
Yeah.
And that's basically what he said. Where he was like, hey, listen, that's not what the interview was really about.
Yeah.
I know that's what the headline said. And for those curious, what is Alex talking about? One of the Missouri senators was on with KMOV, mostly because of the news that he made about like pushing for SLU to be in the Big East. And one of the questions they asked him about on KMOV was, do you think it's possible for St. Louis to get an NFL team? The backing for the question was, hey, the Chiefs are going to Kansas. Does that present an opening for St. Louis to once again have an NFL team? And he said, sure, yeah, like there's money there set aside from the lawsuit against Kroenke, blah, blah, blah. Talked with Tim earlier today, and I'm just relaying what Tim said on the air. Hey, listen, that the funding is there. Maybe you could do that. Maybe there are some people that would be interested in bringing a team here. And Tim basically said, I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's going to happen. I agree with Tim. I think it's highly unlikely. I think it is more likely for there to be some billionaire in St. Louis, probably associated with worldwide technology in some capacity or another, that decides, I want to bring an NBA team here. We've at least got an arena that could probably house an NBA team if you really wanted to out at Enterprise Center. So there's not billions of dollars of an influx that has to go in somewhere. So, yeah, I'd say NBA.
Yeah, I would go NBA.
I don't think it's likely. But
I don't either.
None of them are going to happen, but I don't think they have any taste, the city, to bring back an NFL team.
I don't think the NFL has much taste to come back after, I don't know, a lawsuit against them. So
Agreed.
I would say
Want
NBA.
a lot of money from it, though.
That's why they're not going to come back.
Try to win more money.
Don't go back to someplace that ripped you off and stole your money.
Got to get your money back, man.
Let me rephrase that. Didn't rip you off, but took your money, I should say.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. To get involved in the show, you can check us out on YouTube as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, T-Bone's upset today about the Hall of Fame vote. He'll tell you about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, and NFL Championship Weekend is upon us, and DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Taking a look at the AFC Championship game this weekend, look, I said it earlier, I love the Patriots, -5.5. I also think they're going to be able to run the ball extremely well in this contest, so give me Ramondre Stevenson, 50-plus rushing yards, and a Ramondre Stevenson anytime touchdown, and that is at +380 are my odds. There, $10 can win me 48, but how about this? With DraftKings, they've got your back this postseason with early exit protection. So if the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you will still get paid in cash. They've also got great live betting options throughout the NFL postseason as well. So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code TANNER, that's code TANNER, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues fell to the Winnipeg Jets last night 3-1. They will be back in action on Friday as they visit the Dallas Stars. We'll have pregame coverage Friday starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And according to multiple reports, St. Louis City SC will be trading forward João Klaus to the LA Galaxy. This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Omaha! Some big news to report here on 101 ESPN. Let's start with the biggest news. Illinois has added a 2027 home game with Delaware.
Yes!
That's not the biggest news. You're a
Add
liar.
that to our playoff
The
resume.
lesser news, according to John Denton of MLB.com, Cardinals led. Yeah, that was tough.
Lesser news and Carm.
Lesser news.
Sure those are NA beers you've been drinking over there?
Yeah, but I thought you were protecting that sperm count.
Cardinals legend Yadier Molina is returning to help mentor the club's catchers. According to a report from John Denton, Molina will be back as special assistant to Chaim Bloom. He is officially returning to the organization.
Is this for the full season or is this for spring training?
Molina
Is he gonna actually
will
be
appear
here?
in uniform sporadically, will work at
Nope.
times behind the scenes. He aspires to become a Major League Baseball manager. Yeah.
Okay, so is this big news? Because
Did we
like this
really
is par
just
for the
Omaha
course.
that?
Yeah. Did you just really Omaha
This
something
is like
for?
me finding out Kyle Gibson, who was a Ranger at the time,
Did you
was
just-
coming off of the IL.
Did you Omaha me for? Hey, yeah, he's gonna be there for spring training and probably show up a couple of games
Big
this year.
news. John Denton reporting. Cardinals legend Yadier Molina is back.
BK fell for clickbait. Just like it's the same thing when I fell for
Can I
Petro
ask a
signing an
quick question?
extension.
Yeah.
Didn't he already have this role?
Yes.
Yeah. Remember he moved into, what was our old bench coach? It was 2 years ago. He took his office, remember?
Oh, the guy from the
Joe
White Sox.
McEwing.
Yeah. Wasn't he already the special assistant to the general manager?
Yeah.
I thought so, but now we got the title special assistant to Chaim Bloom instead of special assistant to John Mozeliak. Is that what happened here?
Basically, what this was it was unconfirmed if he was coming back, and they got it confirmed that he said, "Yeah, I'll be back at times this season."
Okay.
You just Omaha'd us for nothing. All right, back to why Carlos Beltran should have been in the Hall of Fame.
We got to go to break.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I didn't miss something there. Big news. John Denton. Number 4 is back.
BK is desperate for Cardinals news.
You have
just trade Brendan Donovan.
Like, is this a Donovan trade? Then I was like, no, because I've got passing notifications set up on my phone, so nothing's happened. And then I thought it was going to be what I said during the break, where apparently the Dodgers are DFAing Michael Ciani for Kyle Tucker's official signing, which totally didn't realize he was not a Cardinal still.
He'll appear in uniform at times at spring training and the 26th season. Cool.
Real news from last night. Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Famer. As a Royals fan growing up, and I'm sure for many of you that are Cardinals fans that watched Carlos Beltran here, overdue, in my opinion. I know T-Bone disagrees with me on this sentiment. Guy was an unbelievable baseball player. Like, as well-rounded of a baseball player as you'll ever see. Did everything well. Beginning of his career, he was one thing. By the end of his career, he was this unbelievable mentor and just had the contact, a little bit of power still, on-base percentage, always a pretty good defender. Just such a good baseball player and absolutely a Hall of Famer in my mind. So congratulations to him. I know, Alex, you're a big fan of Andrew Jones. Also was able to get in one of the biggest jumps we've ever seen for a player that ultimately did find a way to get into the Hall of Fame. His first year on the ballot, he had 7% of the vote. Jeez. He got in at 78%. I think this part of the process is crazy to me. He did not change who he is as a player, and baseball statistics have not really changed enough in the last decade to meaningfully change to that degree how you feel about Andrew Jones. So why did 70% of y'all decide this year he's in, but year one he wasn't worthy? It's the same reason why Jim Edmonds fell off the ballot, but I'll get off my high horse. I hate that part of the process. It really bothers me.
Stay on your high horse.
Say, I love reading Jason Stark work. Like, I love Jason Stark.
It's amazing.
He's amazing. But anytime I read his 5 takeaways on the Hall of Fame ballot and he's going through the numbers, it reminds me how much I hate the Hall of Fame voting process to what you're saying.
Stay on the high horse, because Jim Edmonds should be in this Hall of Fame conversation still, and it's dumb that he got voted off the island because he had 5% of the votes, because the voters are just too inept to be able to make that decision.
I would also add this, it's part of what they do on the ballot that bothers me, which is the limiting of the number of people that you can vote for.
Yep.
If they didn't have that limit, maybe Jim Edmonds was still on the ballot. Be on the ballot.
Before I'll let T-Bone cook, I'll just second what you said. Andrew Jones was one of my favorite center fielders growing up. I loved that guy, so he deserved to be in. And Carlos Beltran, I've always loved getting to watch. I didn't get to watch him like you were when you were a kid seeing him with the Royals, but I loved him when he was with the Mets, and that's coming from a Cardinals fan. And then when he was the Cardinals, it was the perfect Band-Aid to put over the loss of no Albert Pujols when you got to see him perform for those 2 years. So I'm glad he got in. I know he had a lot of dirty stuff that T-Bone doesn't like.
Yeah. The whole mentoring thing at age 40 in Houston, where it was curveball incoming, banging the trash can, where he led the whole. He was the main guy that Manfred threw under the bus from the player side in that scandal of the biggest scandal in baseball over the last 5 decades or so. The Houston Astros cheating scandal. To me, he's not a Hall of Famer because of that. Because he was in the center stage of it. I get it. His numbers are great. He was a great baseball player. He was great for his, 2 years here in St. Louis. Because I can remember watching him growing up as a Cardinal. Would not have voted for him to be in the Hall of Fame because of it. I wouldn't vote for Altuve, wouldn't vote for Bregman, wouldn't vote for any of those Astros that were a part of that scandal. Also wouldn't vote for PED guys, by the way.
It does set the precedent for those guys now.
I do find it interesting that he gets in through this scandal, yet the PED users aren't getting the votes for this stuff. And I get it is different, but it's also cheating. So I don't think Beltran should have been a Hall of Famer. I'm disappointed that he got voted in personally. But if you're going based on the baseball numbers by itself, I understand how people get there. But I think you have to put in the fact that he was mainly the main guy, the main player that got pinpointed in Manfred's report as helping set up the cheating scandal that the Astros ended up running.
Not only do I understand how you get there, he's a no-doubter.
Yeah.
There's no question about him whatsoever on whether or not his credentials should get him in as a baseball player. Here are the members of the 400 home run, 300 stolen base club in Major League Baseball's history. Barry Bonds, Willie Mays, Andre Dawson, A-Rod, Carlos Beltran. End of list. That guy was a Hall of Famer. And I'm glad he's in. I understand T-Bone disagrees with it. I do respect the hell out of the fact that you're consistent on this. if you have one of these blemishes on your resume, you're not in T-Bone's eyes. I disagree with it. That's not how I would vote, but I don't like when people are inconsistent with it. If you say yes on Beltran, no on Barry, or like yes on A-Rod, no on Barry, yes on Clemens, whatever it is, just be consistent with it one way or another. As long as you vote that way, I can disagree with it all I want, but at least I see what your philosophy is on these matters. So just be consistent on it. Beltran is a guy that I absolutely would have voted for. I also would have voted for A-Rod. I would have voted for Barry. I would have voted for all of these guys that were among the greatest in the game. And I just would have, like, whether you want to have a separate wing, you want to put an asterisk on there, bust, whatever it is, I would just have those guys in the Hall of Fame because I think that you are not representing baseball's history without them being a part of it, in my opinion. But that's my viewpoint. I understand T-Bone's as well. Felix Hernandez, by the way, very likely to get into the Hall of Fame after what you saw in terms of the jump for him. He went from 27% to 46%, the biggest gain we've ever seen year over year in terms of a percentage of the vote that they were able to receive. A couple of years from now, you're very likely going to see Felix Hernandez, Andy Pettitte, and Chase Utley as future members of the Hall of Fame. I don't know on Utley. His prime was very, very good. I'm not sure on that one. Felix Hernandez, though, I think is a...
I agree.
Anyone else you disagree on?
I am with him on Utley, though. Like, I looked at his numbers.
Oh, he wasn't the one I was talking about.
By the way, it took me like 45 minutes to read Stark's piece today. Not because it was long, because I went into a lot of research while reading it. Because I was shocked by Chase Utley's number. Because I look at him, and I remember him being a great player. I think he's in the Hall of Very Good, not Hall of Fame. But I'm a small hall guy, right? I truly am a small hall guy. And I think King Felix gets in, and I would vote for King Felix, because he kind of fits more of what the modern, I think, starting pitcher Hall of Famer should be. Won a Cy Young, had I think it was 2 second-place finishes, and I think 4 or 5 top 5 finishes as well. Like, he was a stud in his career.
Any other ones you don't agree with?
Utley is a guy who will definitely be helped by the modern analytics. Because Utley, when you just look at the traditional numbers, none of them really jump off the page to you. But then you look at the wins above replacement, and over a 5-year stretch, he was 7.3, 7.3, 7.8, 9, 8.2. That 5-year stretch in wins above replacement, which T-Bone doesn't like this, but primarily driven by defense and good offensive numbers as well. Just a really well-rounded baseball player. That's probably what is going to get him in. His wins above replacement numbers and being able to consistently post and put up good, well-rounded season. That's going to be the thing that ultimately gets him into the Hall of Fame, whether I agree with it or not. Coming up next, Rewind here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Shave for Door Company. You
that
did it
101
again, man.
ESPN app is free to use. Free to download. Super easy to use. It is presented by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Don't have to steal my thunder, man. I only get a little amount of time on this show.
People,
Like,
just
let me live with
whatever
it.
you're about to put on
Okay,
that.
well, it's not breaking news. So, BK, you have Victory Men's Health Live read coming up this next
I thought you
commercial
were going
break.
to tell us that Yadier Molina is back
no.
as a special assistant to the Cardinals.
I thought T-Bone was about to write something on the board that we needed to report. I was like, dude, we got a minute. So just say it out loud.
That's why
You
I was
got Victory
grabbing the
Men's Health,
whiteboard.
man.
But yeah, be ready. Victory Men's Health coming up at the break.
You're going to hear BK tell you about Victory Men's Health.
So Mizzou was bad last night. SLU wasn't great either. They come out with a win. Mizzou does not. Dennis Gates better get this thing back on track.
Nice.
They're going to be a bubble team all year. We know that. Alex, the Blues didn't look great either. What was your biggest takeaway?
They played well at 5-on-5. I actually think they did look great. They just can't score goals. This team lacks finishers, and that is going to be their biggest question mark moving forward.
On the deserve to win-o-meter, they have like a 76% chance to win that
It
game
was
last
ridiculous.
night.
Yeah. But again, and I think Lou tweeted it out, and he's absolutely correct. 76% chance to win. Better team at 5-on-5. You gave up one high danger scoring chance to them at 5-on-5. But your power play can't score. Penalty kill can't stop the other team from scoring, and you can't score at 5-on-5.
What are we watching tonight?
Illinois
Against
basketball.
Illinois?
ILO.
And they're 18-point.
Are you
favorite?
kidding me? No, I think
They're
I
without Boswell.
might have a movie night with my girls tonight.
I started Hijack, by the way.
I'm not going to watch that with my girls.
It's that's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it's too long. They could have done it in like
feel like
5,
this
not
could have
8
been a
episodes.
movie.
Yeah, even better.
By the way, that's what I'm worried about. Paradise is coming out in February. Katie's excited about it. I'm like, man, I think we kind of know what the story's going to be.
It's kind of one of those things where you have a meeting.
Yeah.
You're like, this could have been an email. That's how I
Yeah.
felt about Hijack.
Night Agents coming back in February. Season 3.
Another one that maybe could have been a movie.
You probably
After season 1.
Season 2 should have been probably just a movie, but they moved on it. But no, my daughters are big
It's
into
back, but that's not until Friday.
I recommend The Night Manager on Amazon.
My
With
daughters
Tom
are big
Hiddleston, and I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays Dr. House.
My daughters are big into Hotel Transylvania, so I think I'm gonna watch
Oh,
the
that's a
second
good
one with
movie.
them.
Luke
Watch
is
the
just
first
into
one.
the Blues. We just watch the Blues.
No, don't.
God, I'd
don't
rather-
find a way not to turn
Also,
on a
do
an old
not
game
watch
tonight.
the Blues. Listen to the Blues right here in your home for the Blues 101 ESPN.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. We'll talk to Joey Vitale about the Blues tomorrow. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. It's time to unlock your inner champion. You can do so at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. All they have to offer is available for you at victorymenshealth.com. I went in there last week, found out where my micronutrient levels are at, had my blood drawn for that. I go back in a couple of weeks to find out exactly where I'm at. They're going to be able to make sure that I am not deficient in any of those areas. So if that's what you're interested in, check them out today. They can also help you with erectile dysfunction issues. If you're low on your testosterone, they can find out exactly where your levels are at, and they can help you with some of that unwanted weight. They can help you lose some of that over at Victory Men's Health. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area: O'Fallon, Illinois, O'Fallon, Missouri, Sunset Hills, and in Town and Country. So check them out today. Book that first appointment online at victorymenshealth.com. Super easy process. Put in your name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion today. It's all at Victory Men's Health and online today at victorymenshealth.com.